Thank
All right,
you.
we'll call to order our school board agenda workshop for April 25th. All school board members are present.
Okay, good morning. Thank you everybody for your patience. We had to attend an awesome Celebrate Clay breakfast this morning held by the Reinhold Foundation, I believe, and first time for me being able to attend, and what a special opportunity to acknowledge some great programs, initiatives, volunteers, and leaders within our county who give back so greatly for community service. So I would say that Orange Park High Schools was acknowledged for their work in reference to the digging you wear, in reference to their give back to kids for clothing, foods, and articles. So a lot of celebrations we had this morning.
And don't forget the elementary music.
Yeah, music was and then I think it was one Project Reach, and Clay
Reach.
Behavior was outreach for what they do for our county as well. So many celebrations, and thank you all for inviting me. And before we get started, I want to make sure I introduce everyone to our the school board's new attorney, Mr. David D'Agata.
Good morning, all. I'm very happy to be here, as I've told many of you here, and I'm looking forward to joining the team and being part of continuous improvement. I know I share that with a lot of people in here, this guy.
Yeah.
And so I'm really happy to be here and building on that which was already here. Thanks.
Thank you, sir, and welcome aboard. Okay, we'll start on C1, minutes of the workshop meeting for March the 27th. Anybody has any questions? We'll push through it. C2 is the Bradford County agreement. This is a current agreement that we have with Bradford County for us to be able to accept students in that area for our county. I know there were some questions about whether or not we actually really needed to have it due to controlled open enrollment, but this just really continues to protect us, and this is just an ongoing agreement that we currently have. It's both ways, our students and our students. We try to recruit their students. C3 is the E-rate contract award. This is all about wireless. This is where we apply for federal funding, and we receive funding to really help us to move to a wall-to-wall wireless initiative in our school district. Mr. Bunkley and his staff, and Mr. Hendrickson and Mr. McCauley have worked hard to make certain that we generate some funding in order to really get to a part where we're really efficiently ready to use the equipment that we purchase in our schools and really have additional wireless access points throughout our schools. This is federal funding where they have 60% of the money, 60% they provide, and the school district is asked to provide 40% of that money. So it's additional fundings that we can use in order to create that excitement and awareness that we need as we transition to accessibility in the 21st century with technology. Mr. Bunkley, anything that you would?
No, sir. Once if the board approves the contract, it has to be reviewed one more time by the USAC schools and libraries. And I know one of the things is the outs on a contract. If it's not approved, then the contract's immediately canceled. And at any time before we make purchases, we can immediately step out of the contract as well. So I know that was one of the things you'd asked to be brought in contract.
That's right. Any questions? This is good for our district. C4 is the extra DES contract. As you know, we brought the contract to be able to work with DES in order to identify employees to help us. This is actual contract for a gentleman who works with us currently and helping us with the conversion from our current program to the new ERP program. This individual will be on a contract to help us make certain that everyone that our payroll is transitioned and our system is up and running, so we don't miss any paychecks for moving forward as this conversion takes place over the next couple of months. It's been very rigorous for Dwayne Weeks and his team to make certain that we have all the information necessary to upload personnel, identifiers, salaries, so this conversion can be as clean as we can possibly. And this gentleman allows us to continue our work from terms to our new ERP system.
Is this contract for the full year?
No, ma'am. This contract only is, I believe, it's hourly. Let's see.
The original contract was approved in July. This is the amendment to that.
Okay.
But in July, wasn't that the second time? Like, how long has this been ongoing? This is like 2.5 years now. Weren't we told 6 months when this first came to us?
Mr. Hires retired in July of 2015 due to family circumstances. the conversion and the purchase of the SunGuard system didn't even start until a year ago. And over the past year, we anticipated this amount and the conversion being done by July. There was some transition that occurred with new board, new superintendent, and there were some other additional duties that came up, such as performance pay that required Mr. Hunter's time.
So do you anticipate this to be 6
Our-
months?
Again,
or
our
how-
timeline is July of this summer to complete the conversion of your
Yeah.
But I would remind the board that while the goal is July 1st, the conversion itself is really going to be a series of firsts over
Right.
that year, where terms will run parallel to the new
Correct.
system, allowing us to make sure that if there's any blips in the system, we can still pay folks.
Yeah.
That seems to be the important
And-
part. So
Hopefully-
that's why the contract is for next year.
Yeah, so, I mean, from my staff knows, completely understands that once we feel that we're confident and comfortable with this conversion transition, then we know that this contract will go away. I've been open with that from day one with staff, and they know my expectations of this. But we want to make sure we're there and we're good, and we're building succession management with our team being able to be trained and understand the program so that we can continue our work with the people who are currently under our umbrella. So DES. Next is the consent agenda. Please note that there are a few resignations that we have in staff. I think that you've been aware of most of them along the way. I've tried to keep everyone aware. There are 2 job descriptions I'd like to bring to everyone's attention so that you are aware of them. The first one is the Business Automation System Coordinator position, BAS. This is a position that I believe we truly need. I think at one point it was brought to you in October, and the board asked to kind of let us get in and see if we actually need this position. You know that we have a number of electrical technicians in our system. This position will allow us to really have someone to lead that work as it relates to HVAC, electrician ventilations, and also looking at all of our video analysis systems and helping us with create security designs within our organization. We have a lot of work to do as it relates to all of this, and I will speak with you individually after this meeting about some additional benefits to this position, but I'd rather do that one-on-one. Any questions that you may have for this one? The second position that I bring for job description is a revision of a Director of Elementary Education. I believe this was once brought to the board back in 2014. This position, bless you, this position will help drive the work in elementary education. We are going to eliminate the position of supervisor of elementary as it relates to reading and ELA. In addition to that, we are going to, halfway through the year, we have a supervisor of elementary education that drives all the work with Title I that will be retiring mid-year. So we want to make sure that we're going to take those 2 positions and collapse them into one. And this will provide an individual to continue to work and focus on the work with implementing, taking on Title I, taking on reading initiatives. So we'll take 2 positions and create one. To be honest with you, this will allow us some time for succession management as well, because Ms. Chastain does good work in our school district, and she's been here for a long time working with our staff and doing a lot of our initiatives. And this allows some overlap for the half of the year that she's here, along with taking on additional responsibilities related to us cutting the supervisor of reading and ELA position that we currently have for elementary.
The 8-12 reading plan, I'm assuming that's not grades, 8 through 12, that's something different.
Is this?
The change here, comprehensive 8-12 reading plan.
Yeah, we actually want to create a reading plan that really services, it should be K-12, I believe.
And that's gonna fall under the elementary?
Yeah, it should be K-12. Yeah, that person will work side by side, Mr. Connor and Dr. Stallman, to work through that process. We'll update that.
It says in number 2, facilitate curriculum planning for the district's VPK to 6.
Correct. We're
So
trying
we're
to,
just missing 7.
we'll update that.
Yeah. So why did we eliminate guidance counselors? So it says it's struck through provide district level support for elementary school guidance counselors.
Yeah, we already have a support person that's working with guidance counselors internally. So this person will not focus on, they can be as additional support, but this person will not be trained in helping individuals gain access to students. So this position, we have a person internally that can do all the work with the guidance counselors and making sure we focus on mental health. And then additional, we'll have Mike McCauley's shop will continue to work with guidance counselors to provide additional wraparound services. But this person will focus on curriculum, reading initiatives, focus on monitoring Title I programs, and continue the body of work through K-6.
Do we have an application for that?
So why are we putting them in charge of 8 through 12 if they're in charge of K through 6?
That's going to change for the reading plan. They're not, it's all elementary.
So are you saying Mike McCauley's in charge of working with the guidance counselors?
Mike McCauley's shop will definitely for mental health.
I have been,
For mental health, for mental health, that's exactly what should happen.
I was trying to, when you said you've got someone in place to work with guidance counselors, I didn't know
Who
who
is
you
that?
were referring to.
Who was the
we
person
have a
that we?
specialist at the district level, Dana Brock, is our point of contact.
And she's a specialist? Or what's
She
her
is
title?
a 10-month specialist, Mr. Brodsky.
Yes, you can.
She's a specialist, we'll find out if she's 10 or 11 months, but she's a 10-month specialist, I know for sure. A specialist is 11 months that works with guidance counselors currently.
And she'll work with all guidance counselors?
She does currently. Continue her work with that.
Okay. Let me ask something, this is a little bit off, but
Sure.
a few months back, and it was too early to ask for an organization chart.
Sure.
Because everything is in flux. When the time comes.
Right.
And God knows when it'll be, but when the time comes, I still want an organization chart to figure out
I agree.
who is where
Sure.
and who reporting to who and how the hierarchy works and who is under who.
Yep.
Because I don't think I'm the only board member who is really confused about this.
And
So-
we got some. in
Yeah.
Well, we
February,
got a
and
piece.
we never
We
discussed them.
We got a
Yeah,
piece of it.
so
Right.
you did. So in February, you received individually my forecast of where I wanted to go for the organizational chart. As we continue to develop and better understand everyone and their roles and responsibilities, I think it was unfair for me to give you anything additional until now.
Right.
I do think it's fair we're in that time, in that window. I am ready and prepared when we set a date for the budget workshop. I think an org chart should go side by side along with that. And we're ready to go with it, so. We have a couple things that we'll ask for today. Ms. Garricus just asked if we got an allocation for this elementary education position. The answer is no, it is on the request today. So, but it will show you that we will be deleting the supervisor of elementary education and then only compensating the individual who's working half a year and retiring we'll be deleting that other part of their salary to create this one.
Yeah. It's just, in years past, when things weren't changed so drastically and
I
job
think it's a fair question.
and job titles have changed, so, you know, I have to get used to operations and climate and
Yes, ma'am.
culture and different verbiage that
Fair.
we're used to. But in the old days, we would have we'd have graphs, charts, the way it was right now, the way it's gonna be next year. We can say, we added one,
Yeah.
we deleted one, this one went up, this one went down. If there was to be some kind of way to compare where we were to where you want to be,
Sure.
that would sure make life
Absolutely.
simpler, right?
And in that
Yes.
presentation that we do in May, you'll get an org chart that cancels out positions that we deleted, and then and then highlights positions that you have already agreed to add, and it will also show you where we are financially.
So
Because
you're,
I think where we are is we don't know, you're saying we're deleting this, deleting that, but we don't really know if we are overall adding, subtracting, how much more it's costing, how much less
Yeah.
it's costing, how many more people do we have? You know what
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
trying to
Yes,
ask.
ma'am. I guess
so
fair.
you're going to do a presentation for us with org charts at the board meeting?
Not at the board meeting, in a board workshop, as soon as you're ready in May. And I think we're a couple weeks away from being ready. You just give me a date in May and we'll do a budget workshop where I will go over all of the analytics of our budget from every function, every fund source, how we're using that fund, how we're using it differently from 16-17 to 17-18. And then I will embed the org chart that all the positions will have been approved by then, and it'll show you the reorg of everything. It's gonna look somewhat all like what you have currently now, to be
I guess from my perspective, what I'm getting at is that it's difficult for me to justify approving the allocations when we don't know what the financial impact of that will be.
Sure.
Because that's ultimately what our responsibility is. So.
Which allocation? This one here?
No,
Any
any
new
of them.
Oh, okay,
Any new-
okay.
To look at the overall picture, I think that that's, you know, that, and that was what
Sure.
I had spoken to you about that way back with
Sure.
the teacher and support allocations, so it doesn't go different than that. It's hard not to see that overall picture and not to look at it
Right.
from a financial standpoint.
Right. And today, you'll see a little bit today in reference to administrative positions that we've added and deleted within this packet in the backup that I believe we brought for everyone to see this allocation model.
When you give us the new organizational chart, would you send everybody a copy of the old one? Not the one you created, but what we were working under last year at this time,
Sure.
so we can actually compare how many.
So can I ask you this? Can I embed it into one in the sense that you would have last year's org chart, anything that we deleted, we'll put an X through, anything that we've added, we will circle. Or we'll highlight, we'll use highlights, and there'll be a legend at the bottom, so you'll see. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And there'll be some, like the old would say assistant superintendent for support services,
Yeah.
somehow designate that that's now.
And can we
Operation.
see the salaries tied to those positions?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like to see the pluses and minuses and the numbers.
Sure, absolutely.
It doesn't really tie into this job description, but while we mentioned guidance counselors, one of the pieces of feedback that I frequently get from parents is how guidance counselors look in today's education world isn't what parents think guidance counselors should be doing, and they don't think they're getting that service, and that probably applies more on the high school level,
Right.
but, and junior high and high school level, the secondary level, but does.
Sure. I think that the biggest reason is because we do not do a good job, and this is just not here, it's nationwide, really maximizing their skill sets and what they're actually trained to do. We oftentimes ask them to do testing, we oftentimes ask them to do so many different administrative roles that we want to be able to free their plate as much as we can so they can really have actionable bite-sized services with our kids to really help them from a mental health standpoint. But I think we get it so often in so many different roles and responsibilities we add to them, and we're trying to delete that opportunity so we can actually do good work and go to classrooms and teach and work with kids. And that's what we want to do. And they want to do that as well.
May I ask you a question about
Sure.
your org chart?
Yes,
You
ma'am.
had a number of model school coaches.
Yeah.
Do you still have them, or are those being shifted around?
Yeah,
Deployed?
so,
And with this position adding in, will, here again, our concern is top heaviness,
yeah,
don't want it.
yeah. Yeah, so I'll say, and I've said this openly, we're really understaffed as relates to administrative staff compared to other districts. We really are. You have a lot of people taking, that's why you have so many people taking on so many different roles, just one person. I know that's what small counties do, and we'll continue to work hard and make sure that we're cost neutral as we can. The model coach, is my understanding, were to create model schools internally in this organization. I would like for next year moving forward to still have coaches, but to be able to blend and service all our schools. One of the biggest things that we saw with the Insight survey was that the frustration of teachers not having access to experts from the district level. And some schools the model schools were getting a lot of services by these coaches, and other schools that had either a larger number of new or teachers from the years 1 to year 3 weren't getting supported. And as you transition to new curricula, they weren't getting supported as well. So I'd like to take all the coaches that we have, put them under one umbrella, and really strategically use them from a curriculum standpoint to help schools that have a larger number of students. Because if you move big schools, you move your district. And also the number of schools that have a high number of new teachers, yes ma'am, and leverage their knowledge in order to deploy the work and help them be successful in their classroom, and help them not only with pedagogy, but how they leverage curriculum and how leaders can leverage time, money, and people. Because these coaches were going out and working with schools, and it wasn't in an intentional manner. Not to be disrespectful, it just wasn't. So we want to control where they go, how they go, and determine the needs based on data and based on requests from schools as well. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions?
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Okay, C6. This is the bargaining that we brought last time. We had some discussion about. Talked to all team members. They understand. They're willing to do work. They understand it's part of their role and responsibility to be engaged in this process and negotiating. So we will do this at no cost to the district. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you.
We had so many people volunteer ready to go, so they're good. C7 is proposed supplemental allocations that we have here. Originally, to be honest with you, we have $2.7 million that goes out to allocation, supplements with our schools, $2.7 million. There is a lot of moving parts in reference to some schools have certain supplements they use, other schools have another set of allocations that supplements they use. So it's really massive to try to determine what actual needs are. Us coming in, we've had so many plates that we're spinning and we're so focused. We tried to give care to this, but we get to a point where we originally were going to delete the intervention team facilitator and allow additional supports to do it, but we're not. We're going to put that back on. One thing we saw is that high schools and junior high schools had a number of department heads within their schools. Some had 10, 11 department heads, while others had 6 or 7 department heads, and we didn't believe that was fair. It was inequity. So we identified that junior high schools will have 7 department head supplements that they can give, and then high schools will have 9. That deletes probably around 11 overall in the district. That way that we have controls on it, and we're just not allowing someone to go out and say, well, you're a department head of this, or you're a department head of this, and we want to do 4 core content areas with literacy, math, social studies, and science. And then you'll have your electives, and you have your ESE, and then we'll give the school one to determine whether or not, one at their discretion, determine not who they want to make a team lead in order to drive the work. So that's at the junior high school, and the same thing as relates to the high school module. We deleted, this packet deletes tech supplements that some of our schools who already had the tech teacher at their school. We deleted that supplement because if you have a tech teacher, you don't need a supplement. For schools who did not have, there's 6 schools who did not have a tech lead that we talked about at one of our meetings. We gave them the tech supplement to use so that someone can be a problem solver on campus. Additionally, we deleted at high schools freshmen and senior sponsors because we know sophomore. Sorry, it's not senior. That's right. Gotta have juniors and seniors. So freshmen and sophomore, and not that they don't do work, but the body of work is really done for juniors and seniors. We do create excitement in the freshman and sophomore class, but the greatest work is done. And we saw inconsistencies of who was using that supplement and who wasn't using that supplement as well. Additionally, we only had 2 schools, and we talk about equity. 2 of our elementary schools out of 26 were using a student council supplement. We deleted those 2 because it's not fair for 2 schools to use them and the other ones not to use them. And then we have at the secondary, we had 1 school in Keystone who did not offer a wrestling supplement, nor do they offer a soccer supplement. So we are making certain that we bring those back, and I believe that's an athletic team. Is that correct, Mr. Brodsky?
That's correct.
We want them to be able to compete, and they should be afforded that opportunity as well. So ultimately, where we originally thought we would save around $100,000, we're saving around I think $50,000 or $60,000 with this control. I will tell you, deeper analysis and work has to be done with our supplements at the district level. $2.7 million is a lot. There's a lot of supplements we're given to individuals, and why I respect their work. I believe there's deeper analysis that has to be done, and I believe that me and Ms. Piva will do some work tomorrow during a one-on-one meeting to talk about it. We've already had a little bit of pre-conversations in the last yesterday as well, but we can go deeper and do better in reference to the supplement. To be transparent, me and my staff didn't really have we weren't able to dive deep enough in order for this to be prepared to make the significant adjustments that I would like. But by contract, this has to go to the board. It should have went to the board last month, I believe.
Should have been
March. So we want to make sure we get it out, and then we will next year. I can tell you openly, next year we're going to look at enrollment of these individuals enrollment of their activities. We'll look at overall productivity with their what activities they're involved, engaged in, how they impact the community, how they impact their school, to determine what actual supplements need to be offered in 18-19, and really to put controls on it. Yes, ma'am.
Question, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask a couple of quick questions. Elementary school, The supplements are discretion of the principal, I'm assuming?
Yes, ma'am. They,
So
I
if you
think there's
receive
application
K-12
process.
supplement,
Yes,
have you
ma'am.
been in charge of the safety?
Yes,
Well,
ma'am.
I didn't
Get it? You want a retro? Can we retro?
Please. Also, the.
Say no, Dr. Lookup, say no.
Can we retro? I mean, how many years did you do that? And how many years ago?
Not so long ago, sir.
Listen, you can fight for it. I think, and you're probably, I just want to go lawyer, you're probably school. You probably should nag it, you already got it.
Also, instructional secondary, I see one music festival, and I don't see anything for elementary music,
Yeah.
which got one of those awards today, because they're going to be understanding they're not going to be getting.
It's just,
any money from
yeah, it's a supplement that wasn't used in the past. So we didn't go and look to add additional supplements, but we can look
So,
and see.
and this may not be a supplement per se, and I'm wondering which music festival.
Which school is that?
It's instructional secondary, it's generic. One district science fair coordinator and one music festival.
Is it
We have a
concert
band
and
concert, we have, well, that would be a, no.
I can look
because
into
that's
that and get
about
feedback.
But we have a band concert, we have a chorus concert, we have the elementary chorus
Yep.
concert.
There's like a county music director.
Yeah,
that's
and it
over
could be
like
that,
kind of
Is
the-
that
I'll find
that
out.
is for
over the
everyone?
music.
Okay, I was just curious about that.
But I'll get
What's
you
his
feedback
name?
to know
Used to do
who.
And then there was a math, we have an elementary math field day.
Before you go
and there
on,
was a
Ms.
supplement
Bobby,
with
do
it.
you know about that position she's talking
Well,
about?
This is the first time I've seen this, and, you know, that I got the supplement package, so what I can say offhand, seeing the, you know, and I just said to Mr. Davis when he came in that, you know, we have a meeting scheduled tomorrow at 9 o'clock, but if you look at this, you know, we're a public school system, and we should have, and we do, I think we strive to have public, common curriculum across the board, so it doesn't matter which school you go to, you get the same services, but if you look at this package, and this is no fault of this administration, by the way, this has been done, you know, for years and years, you know, whoever the principal is that cries the most, you know, that's true. So if you look at a place like Argyle, who's got $21,910 worth of supplements, but then you got your biggest elementary school, Poe, getting $18,000.
But then they said-
This whole package needs to be looked at. Now, we're already outside the contract, and I told Mr. Davis we were quite willing to sign an MOU on it because this is supposed to be posted for 2 weeks in April. That's by contract, your contract, and that wasn't done. And I think there was, you know, it's a combination of so many things and so many changes being happened and so much progression happening in this county so quickly. But having said that, you know, I'm disturbed that I need to have time to look at this. We should be servicing all schools. You know, Keystone is getting wrestling and soccer. Is that boys soccer or girls soccer? Every high school has boys and girls soccer. Why don't they have boys and girls? Our high schools should have the same things. Our elementaries should have the same things.
I agree.
And when you go and if you look and you know, the administration will say to me just now, you know, yeah, but they have, Wilkinson has more supplements than Oakleaf. You know, Wilkinson Junior High is smaller than Oakleaf. How can that be? Well, they don't have Future Educators of America, say. No, that's because somebody gave it up along the way. Doesn't mean the need got taken away. So, you know, we have a lot of work to do, and the CCA is quite willing to do an MOU on that, but the important thing is these have to be advertised for our teachers to be able to apply for them. They're applied, that's why it had to be 2 weeks of April. So we can't bring this to a June meeting. So somewhere along the way, we need to see how far we get tomorrow, because that's too late. The June 1st meeting, because where are you going to advertise this, and how are you going to interview for these? And these are fluent jobs, unlike the specialists from our county who are specialists.
So
And the guidance specialist, that's her title because she gets a supplement for being a specialist. She's a guidance counselor and an experienced and excellent guidance counselor and has been doing the work with our guidance counselors for 3 years. We created that job description, I think most of you remember, when we created that job description about 3 years ago and took Dana out of Lake Asbury and put her in there.
Ms. Pye, I do not disagree with you at all. I mean, you know, openly I say that there needs to be controls for everything that we do. If you're willing, and And I know we talked about yesterday not taking it to the June board meeting, but it would give us really time to really continue to create controls, and that would give us a very short window for principals to interview teachers. And I agree, I don't want them to apply for something that we're gonna potentially strike. So let's just, two options, we can see how well we get tomorrow, and I'm dedicated all my time to whatever we need to do to make adjustments in this packet to have controls to read the result.
You might have to
The
postpone
board,
that.
or I am appreciative of your willingness to sign an MOU. Yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm appreciative of your willingness to sign an MOU to extend this, and I'm thankful for that, because I agree with you wholeheartedly. This is, there was a lack of attention to this, and you are correct. Those who understood the game and knew that this supplement existed, and the teacher knew the supplement extended, they did it. For those people who may have retired or left, they just didn't, they never used it, and it's out there, and they haven't used it. And so through attrition, you know, it's continued to be inconsistent, our measures, and I don't believe that enough care has been given this in the past. I want to do the right things and put controls to have equity at the same time, make sure that we are still responsible about what we give out, because $2.7 million is a lot of money.
May
It
I
sounds
say-
like,
Go ahead.
it sounds like you're going to make changes to this, so this should probably be moved down to the
Discussion?
discussion end of the
Awesome,
agenda.
I'm good with that.
Is everybody
Is that okay with that?
May I say
Yes.
something?
Thank you. And then I'll give you a chart, I'm sorry, I'll give you a chart of what we recommend as quick as I can give it to you, so you can push me and ask me questions.
I am absolutely delighted to hear this conversation, because any of you who've been
It's been
around
her
for a
pet peeve
while,
forever.
There's a term that's called runaway train that I have used for years. This package has been a runaway train. The supplements were going crazy. We were up to, if I recall, about $4 million in supplements, and we did take a night.
One of the reasons that there's inequity or changes is that two different times they request, I was the principal at the time, 10% cuts. So then people had the option of saying, I'm gonna cut this or that. So then
Thank
everybody
you for
across
that.
the board is different.
Thank you for that.
But,
Didn't know.
but as much as we had the desire, I mean, you know that you want to reward people
We do.
for doing above and beyond, but yet on the other hand, you see this supplement package just take on a life of its own. And like David said, you know, we said cut 10%, so one cut this and one cut that, and it's all out of whack, completely out of whack. And I am delighted, for one, to see someone really sit down and go through this. And I don't fault y'all, I mean, we've got so many new people in place that you don't know what you don't know. And really, you need to stay on him and make sure he's doing it, like the contract
Well, you know, at 7 in the
I
morning,
don't know what
it's
the
his dinner
contract
time, so I'm.
All night, just call me.
I will say, and I'm all in favor of controls and things, but I want to not minimize the
Right.
extra time that these
Oh, absolutely.
Don't
staff
disagree.
members are giving, because I know that I've had several high school principals tell me they're having a hard time even getting people to
To fill
bring.
positions.
Well,
Yeah,
that's the thing, you
but
have to.
I will say
And
this
it's
as
not
well.
my intent to cut them, by the way.
yeah.
My intent is to make them uniform,
And
okay?
the
I
thing
agree.
is,
Thank you,
it's not even, I mean, it's not only the number of supplements, it could be looked at the amount of the supplements too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at this.
I agree.
Well, that's
And-
that's diving straight into contracts
Yes.
and marketing. So I can't play with the mouse and that,
I like
because
what
now
you
you're
said.
talking about marketing, but we can't talk about the package itself. And making it uniform, I'm a firm believer that public
Bring a
school,
stutter in the
no matter where my zip code in, no matter what school I go to, I should have the same opportunities.
And
And I'm firmly gonna, you know, I know, so now I get it today, so I get to stay up all night.
Thank you.
Mrs. Bola, I
Thank
didn't
you.
mean to interrupt you. I
No,
thought,
that's
when I
cool.
said
That's
that,
great.
I
That's
really wanted, Brindley, you didn't actually answer the question that Mary was asking about.
I'm sorry,
the
Mary,
music.
because I was so
I was
distracted
wondering,
by
is there one?
my hair pointing, yes.
Do
You see this?
do you know the instructional music?
I thought you could help on that one, and you went off.
No, I mean, I'm so overwhelmed by just, you know, the inconsistency, and I'm overwhelmed by the
That's
package
right.
itself.
It's inconsistent.
And-
So, you know, I agree. I mean, why stop music at elementary? It's why, I mean, I don't get it. They also have a music supplement, so that's a whole, that's a bargaining
Well,
thing.
we're glad that we're all working together. and that you and Addison are getting together and going through it and making sure that we're getting it right, so thank you.
And I will say, Ms. Paiva has been.
I'll cut your hair.
Yeah.
I got a Flowbee.
There you go.
Ms. Paiva has been really patient with us, so we appreciate it.
It's one of those as seen on TV.
It's kind of vacuum to it.
No, that will not be happening.
That's what Addison.
That's what Wayne's World.
I'm sorry.
Okay, get back to the agenda.
All right.
But I didn't mean to interrupt you, Ms. Paul. If you have more
I'll find
questions,
out,
please
Ms.
go
Paul.
right ahead.
Thank you.
All right, the next one is renewal for the 17-18 list of physicians for Medical Families Authorization. This is where we send individuals for physical examinations and drug assessments. And this is for basically support staff, for bus drivers and cafeteria workers. Just continue the list. All right. The next item is SIPS, which is our Systematic Instructional and Phonics Awareness Program. As we talked about, we've had a piecemealed solutions to our phonics programs in this district. We have schools that has phonics for reading, we have schools that have PALS, and schools that have SIPS. So this is for us to kind of narrow our focus and really have one program so that we can really determine our return on investment financially. And this is not a program that Addison Davis selected, this is a program that teachers selected. We brought a committee of teachers for them to come in and to work. To look at all three that they currently had, because I didn't want to bring something new. I wanted them to bring something that they felt that they had some research behind. So SIPS was the project or the initiative and the program that allows them to look at so many facets as relates to phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension to really help. I think this is a major part for us to have consistency in K2 so that practitioners can go from one classroom to another classroom or one school to another school to really look at best practices and for us to really have a program that helps build the capacity of our literacy within our county. This is going to cost us around $260,000. It's a one-time purchase, which is great, and we'll be using textbooks categorical funding that's provided by the state.
I got to see this in action when I did my Teacher of the Year walkthroughs. It's a phenomenal program,
I think-
and the kids were so engaged.
Yeah.
It's fast paced.
It is.
You know, it's just a very engaging curriculum, and I was very impressed with what I saw.
Awesome.
I'm assuming the teachers that you got together for this represented all of the various programs.
Absolutely.
So that when they looked at SIPS, they were saying, okay, I know we're using this program, XYZ, but SIPS looks good as well.
It was actually a really engaging process. The ones, they were each trying to convince the other of their product. And by the time it was over, the SIPS people won. They had sold the product. In fact, we said to the one lady from
That's their job.
Keystone,
They
I'm like,
feel passionate.
she's going to go work for that company, I'm pretty sure.
This is a quick win for this district to have a common
And I
curriculum.
would love to see us do some sort of push to parents to let them know how passionate we are about phonics, because
Yep.
I think there's been a missing
Right.
communication between schools and parents.
Sure.
I hear from the community, why don't y'all teach phonics?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
because we haven't
Yeah.
had.
Oh, they do say the same
Some-
about cursive
some
writing.
Oh, I get
So
hammered.
anyway, I think it would be a
Yeah.
good opportunity.
I agree with you. I think we'll do a major launch
It's
17-18 around
not
literacy.
even required.
We'll do a major launch around literacy in 17-18 and create excitement. We'll do some challenges with our schools. We'll do we can do a 5K run. We'll do a lot of things that really connect, and then we'll send something out once I get everything to the board and approved from a curriculum side. We'll send a document and a letter home and put it on our website to show what we're actually offering from a curriculum standpoint by grade level. So they can really start to look at resources and starting to educate the family how to use these resources in order to help their child.
I'll tell you what would be phenomenal, if you could get a short video clip of the kids doing the SIPS program and put that on our website for parents to see it and buy into
Don't
it.
worry.
I have an idea. At the beginning of the meeting, when you do your little, that would be something good, and it would go out, just kind of
Yes, ma'am.
show people what's going on.
There's a lot of, if I remember right, a lot of chanting between the teacher and the kids.
Yeah.
It's very engaging, so I think that
Yes,
it'd be
ma'am.
a good
Maybe
message
they're
for parents.
Why don't we get one of the teachers to actually do, and you guys can be the students and you can role play
There you
this.
go.
I want to see you all chat.
Now you're pushing
Are you gonna be the
it.
administrator? Are you gonna be administrator?
No, I'm just gonna be the observer.
A walkthrough or informal?
Informal.
football observation. And we'll get in pigtails and have a lollipop.
Or worse.
Guys, I'm coming back.
Okay. All right, next one is Mainspring Academy contract for 16-17 in ESY, extended school year. This is for one of our students in the 5th grade who, at Lakeside Elementary School, that will need additional services for us to provide those services for him. Okay. Next one is C11, I believe, is purchase of Achieve 3000. This is another way to create controls and common curriculums within our school district. We have a number of, all of our secondary schools are using Achieve 3000 in intensive reading. We want to expand this from grades 4 to grades 10 in order for us to really start to really focus on literacy within our school district. We want to focus on Lexile scores to determine whether or not kids are on grade level or not. It gives us really comprehensive information. It also provides us with a diagnostic for kids and then provide diagnostics of where our kids are. And then it's really prescriptive and allows us to differentiate instruction for every one of our learners on an individualized, personalized basis. And it really allows us to have common assessments internally. This gives us a lot of information for text-based alignment to FSA, and it's also a predictability tool that allows us to really determine how well our students are doing, but how well our students will predictably do on the FSA assessment. As of right now, we do not have any internal measures that allow us to have the predictability to acknowledge where we are, and this will allow us to do so for grades 4 to grades 10 within our classrooms. This allows teachers who are teaching ELA, literacy, English language arts, reading, and also social studies to really embed some really high-rich quality text in front of kids. And it's really a great opportunity aligned to the FSA standards as it relates to the complexity of its craft.
Is this all digital materials?
All digital materials.
Okay.
And it has a component, I believe it has a component we can print out additional materials for when we pull small groups. So what it is if you take this diagnostic and it shows that you really need to focus on comprehension and reading at a certain grade level. So it gives you rich text, so it meets the learner where he or she is, and then it gives you a staircase approach, and it keeps stretching you to have stretch articles that allow you to push your thinking and pushes your vocabulary and comprehension along with a level set of questions. And every month it gives you a Lexile score to determine whether or not you've moved. And it gives you actual monthly Lexile scores and also quarterly Lexile scores and mid-year Lexile scores. So we can determine whether or not that student made a 1-year growth or a 2-year growth. And if they're not, what can we do to pull supplemental materials and work with that kid with hard materials versus on that computer in order to help them be proficient in literacy.
So how, I'm thinking, a typical elementary school classroom, how are you going to get 20 kids on the computer at the same time?
Yes, it's about us changing our instructional framework. We have IT working right now to make certain that we have around 6 to 7 computers in every one of our classrooms. That means when you have 21 kids, you'll create small groups. Yeah, it'll be center-based learning. So you'll have you'll do whole group lunch, and then it's a lot of professional development and training how to work with kids. But this is best practice, where you work with 7 kids on their individualized needs, while 7 other kids are doing individually connected blended learning, and while other 7 kids may be doing independent practice or independent reading based on their level sets, based on their skills. And then that's a rotational process that allows you to touch kids every day, all the time, and they get so many different ways of learning that's connected, that's fast, that's not stiff. The sitting gets like I'm doing right now. I know you want to leave, but because the lecture mode, it's very difficult to obtain a learner's ability and skill set, and this allows us to do that.
And how is the text selected? The computer generates it, or the teacher selects it?
No, the computer generates it. It goes ahead and that diagnostic identifies that kid's reading level and ability. And if I'm in the 5th grade and I'm reading at a 3rd grade level, it starts them off a 3rd grade level material, and then starts having a staircase approach that takes them between 3rd and 4th grade, and then a 4th grade. And as that kid advances, it continues to advance with that kid. And then once a kid is on grade level, it also offers enrichment opportunities, so that kid can now, let's just say I'm in 5th grade and I'm reading at a 5th grade level, it now starts to stretch that kid to go 6th and 7th grade, and it really pushes them. It's high level text.
And Is there a way for parents to have access to that information, to that,
Um,
to see what their kids are reading?
I can see if there's a way that we can link that to the portal. I am not certain and confident. I know that through our,
Because you know, right now you can
yeah,
walk
yeah.
in your child's
Yeah,
teacher's
sure.
classroom and see what books they're reading. But if we put it all digitally,
Yeah,
how
we
many
could,
parents?
we could see if there's a connectivity and there's a pathway. That's actually a great suggestion.
Is that, you know, content is a concern.
Yeah.
You know, some parents.
They would
values
love
different
this.
than others.
They'll love to see where their kid is from a Lexile level. And then,
Content as well.
you go ahead.
So like if you are, I'm thinking from an ELA teacher standpoint, if you're reading a novel, let's say you're reading The Outsiders in middle school and you want to go ahead and give your students some background knowledge into the times of the 1950s, you as a teacher are able to go ahead and search some of the themes in the novel, and it's an informational text base. So then you can go ahead and say, okay, this is great. It has something like just an article about maybe the time or the economy back then, and you can push that out to your students. So when they get on, it's automatically, everybody's reading the same article. It's just on their right there level.
So, I have a few questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so, you said we don't currently have an indicator of how students will do on FSA. That's what we thought we were spending the Performance Matters money on. So, that's a question.
Yeah, so Performance Matters, you bought Performance Matters to have some subsets of assessments, and most of those assessments are teacher created or district created and district created and made. And when we did our analysis, we found that that most were not aligned and gave us accurate predictability. That's why I ceased the assessments, not in additional assessments. It has a limited bank of questions. It doesn't have sufficient bank of questions that we could use to really have high quality assessments within our school district.
So is that money then for next school year going to be spent on this, or do we have to pay out that contract, or how does
No,
that-
you need Performance Matters in so many different ways because it's a hub for so many of our matrices that we want to put in. We want to link all this data from Achieve 3000 and potentially Already, because some of our schools have Already. We want to link that all together so you have one data warehouse to capture information and it talks to each other. We do want to be able, teachers to be able to upload their own individual assessments if we can, and we do have assessments that we will offer next year that we want to try to link as well.
Okay. And then, so currently, as a parent in Focus, you can see how your student has performed on Performance Matters. So to Ms. Gilhousen's point, I think it would be valuable for parents to be able to see these Achieve 3000. And here's why I'm asking it, because on the course selections papers that parents signed for middle or for junior high, high school classes, it said on there, Achieve 3000 scores will be used for placement of your child in either advanced classes or regular classes. And that was extremely concerning to a number of parents. I got a lot of phone calls on that because they said, what is this? Where's it coming from? Who's deciding? Does the teacher have input? Even though it said on there, it's a combination. And I think that can lend itself to an overall parent education within the district to say, this is how we're placing kids and that we're consistently sticking with it. Because whether it's that your child gets put in Algebra 1 honors as an 8th grader, or whether your child is being put in an advanced reading group in 3rd grade. Parents want to know how it's being done, and you know how parents get competitive. And then they think their children are geniuses, and we know they are. But that is one thing that I think that can be helpful, so parents know where this data is coming from.
Thanks, Fair. Yes, ma'am.
The text that is available in Achieve 3000, is that all from the Florida approved list of text?
It's aligned to the Florida standards heavily. I believe that, I think the last time we did assessments, around 88% is accuracy for predictability and alignment with the Florida standards.
I'm not sure, I mean, the content.
Content-wise.
The list of books that are approved for this.
It's
from the Associated Press. Most of the articles come out of the Associated
articles.
Press.
It's all informational.
Yeah.
It's all informational.
all informational.
So it's not literature, it's information. That's why Terry was saying, if you're reading a novel, you'd accompany it with informational text from Achieve 3000.
When you talk about it being embedded with social studies curriculum, I think for parents it'd be great if you covered what social studies standards are being met at each grade level. I think that, you know, transparency obviously is key with everything, and when you go digital, little, there's this fear
Sure.
immediately for parents of young
Sure.
children especially,
Right.
that they're not gonna know what their kids are reading.
Right. So this is just addition, and this is just additional resources they can use, and it's really rich information.
Just to add to that, to her point, we have the social studies curriculum specialist identifying specific articles that are tied to those social
Oh,
studies
great,
standards
so it's
alone.
locally,
Yeah.
a local decision.
Yeah.
Right,
Yes.
and so
And-
that there's consistency across schools too, about what articles are being pulled for social studies. So we're gonna do that legwork for the teachers.
Awesome.
And we will upload that within our curriculum guides, so it'll be accessible to all of our, any stakeholder,
Okay.
once we get website up and running.
It'd be great to see this program in action.
Can if you want to see it.
It
Wanna
actually
do it?
is, I have seen it in action at Wilkinson Junior High.
So they're using it already?
Yeah, we have some schools that are using it.
Okay.
Our
I can't
intention-
remember
All of our
Actually,
junior
labels
and senior high schools are using intensive reading.
Okay.
Those who are savvy enough to allow them to get additional licenses are stretching it out of intensive reading and using these articles in different ways, and we'll see benefits to that.
So this morning I was at Bannerman with a 7th grade ELA teacher. We were using an Achieve 3000 article on North and South Korea and the demilitarized zone. And it was just explaining the history from the 1950s of the Korean conflict. And the kids were learning words like resident, inhabitant, isolated. You know, they were talking through the meanings of words that they didn't know. But it was just informational text from Associated Press
To give them some
about
context.
a current events topic.
So the articles you said are coming from national news journals?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And they're updated daily. I mean, it's as fresh as today, you know, the informational text that can be pulled.
Is there any science involvement with this
There's not.
for informational text?
I don't believe,
There-
in an additional to, I think it's an additional purchase that you have to go
There,
into.
there are science articles and you could align curriculum from Achieve
Well, I'm thinking
3000.
of the 4th, 5th, 6th grade.
Absolutely, they could
Because they
pull,
need the
they could do
science.
some searches and align it to standards. It's really not difficult to find articles that
Mr.
align.
Connor and Dr. Stallman, I know that there is opportunity, but is that additional cost or is that embedded with what we are purchasing?
No, it's a part of the program, yeah.
Good.
And one other question, in Performance Matters, you refer frequently to teachers using it. Teachers do want to use Performance Matters, and they want to be able to assess or access the
Yeah.
questions within that bank.
Yeah.
We went through training on how to access the questions through the bank, and
Yes,
then
ma'am.
we were never able to actually secure the test. We were never actually able to test, to use it. And it was, I'm not certain where that all comes down.
Yeah.
I don't, there are some values to Performance Matters that we were attempting to use, particularly in math.
Yes, ma'am.
And we weren't able to follow through on actually creating the test.
Right,
We got to that stage and it was like, okay, no, you're shut out.
right.
So I don't know where that is in the operation of everything, but I have had teachers who've asked me if that's something that would ever be made
Yes, ma'am.
available.
What we'd love to do and we aspire to do, but the conversion is, the ERP conversion is so great, but we're gonna work with Steve Amberg to make certain that all of our curriculum guides, that we can give suggested assessments into the module and unit assessments, that we can give them a bank of questions they can use at their leisure.
And they know how to get into
Some of the
it already,
questions
yeah.
that we have in the PM assessments that we gave a scale of the district, we may want to take some of those and protect those to have some additional, if we ever wanted to do a benchmark assessment of the district. So, but teachers would have access to that because we want that to be protected questions.
Sure.
But I agree, we should have a bank of assessments so they can have access to.
I'm taking that information down.
Because it
Figure that out.
was, yeah, that was intentional.
Mr. Superintendent,
Yes, ma'am.
next year, we have intentions of putting a block of ELA, blocking ELA and embedding social studies in that block. Is the intention to use Achieve 3000 for the embedded social studies curriculum at the elementary level?
The answer is, it could be a possibility. When you get to a part that has so many number of informational texts that they could use to drive to help with that process. My understanding is that today I'll bring to the board to open up elementary textbook adoption for 17, 18, or 18, 19. 17, 18 to look at elementary. But as of right now, it could be used as a tool during that time frame, and we can provide professional learning side by side with that.
We adopted social studies this year, correct?
We adopted secondary.
Secondary.
which
Have
would
we
be-
not adopted any elementary social studies?
Yes, so the elementary social studies teachers have vetted product, and they are making a recommendation that will come to the next board meeting regarding what they want to use. There are a couple of things. One is DBQs are going to be added into the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, which
For all schools.
yes,
They love it.
and they have been
They
aligned
love
with
it.
the social studies standard, and they've been implemented into the curriculum guide, so teachers know exactly when to use them and how to use them with their time. We also have aligned Achieve 3000 articles with the social studies standards as well, so those are being embedded as we speak into the curriculum guide, so teachers don't have to go figure it out. It's one-stop shopping. And then the third piece is we're looking at they've looked at a product called Teacher Creative Materials, which is DBQ-ish. And it comes in a box, and it has all the documents and artifacts so that the teachers can just pull it, use it, teach from it, and embed it. The concept of embedding social studies, so that everyone knows, is that it is teaching reading in the content area versus in isolation. So social studies is nonfiction content. So why not maximize our instructional time by using it that way? In all reality, we have not always done a good job of teaching social studies in elementary school, especially since
That's national.
we've been doing high stakes assessment. So I'm
You've been
super
doing
excited
Yeah.
about that. And then the last piece, so this is just not a fly-by-night idea, is we're looking at increasing their classroom libraries, all with books aligned with the social studies standards, and we're currently beating up multiple vendors for a really good price.
Yeah.
I would also appreciate, Mr. Superintendent, that you get this information to teachers
Sure.
as soon as possible,
Yeah.
because there is a lot of apprehension about this. And when you listen to what Dr. Stallman says, you sit there like, yay, and Ms. Bowles, yay. But, it's not yay on my side because it's shrouded in too much of, they appreciate you telling them the process.
Right.
Teachers understand processes. They don't understand finished
Implementation.
products when they don't know.
Yeah, and Ms. Piva, I don't disagree, but what we want to do, we wanted Achieve to be approved, and once Achieve's approved, then we can show the marriage between the two and show how that instructional framework will work. I don't disagree. So the articulation of what we're trying to do is really best practice. The rubber hits the road when we talk about how that is actually implemented within your school day. Because, and I agree, and I know you know, and Dr. Stallman spoke about it as well, we really didn't teach those studies. And no different than when we talk about science, we didn't teach science, and we teach science in 5th grade. And we think, and then we figure out it's too late, that kids got to understand 3rd and 4th grade spiral curriculums. So we're just trying to embed it in a fashion where it's covering
Because the
content.
flip side to that, Mr. Davis, is that principals go and start talking about timetabling when they don't understand that you're embedding a block of ELA, and they're like, wait a minute, I can't fit 362 minutes into
Sure.
the school day,
Yeah.
because they're at the back end of it.
Right.
And we have to be more at the front end of this, so it alleviates
No, I
my
agree.
job.
I agree. So I think one of the
Maybe
times
eliminates my job if we
I know.
continue this way.
I think that y'all have some time on task coming up.
Yes, we
Some time to meet, and in those times we want to talk about scheduling. We want to talk instructional framework so we can see the big picture, so that everyone will be a better understanding. A big massive wave of professional development will be sent out here in the next, I would say, week or two, of what we're going to do from a summer perspective and what we're going to offer our teachers as it relates to curriculum and what new implementations we'll have for whole group tier 2 and tier 3 as well. And then you'll see that it may seem like it's a lot, but we're going to protect K1 a little bit more than what we were originally going to implement. So we're going to be very strategic about what we offer, so it's not a bunch at one time. It'll be very intentional, and then we'll have a phase-in for 18-19 for some additional curriculum implements. Yes, ma'am.
May I have a question? I am not a teacher. What is DBQ?
What's
It
your
stands for
guide?
document-based questioning, and it's where you look at multiple documents, ask critical questions, and you come to an analysis and a synthesis of what you're seeing. It's a prep for getting ready for SAT and ACT. And our district has been super forward-thinking in doing that work in the elementary grades. Typically, we hold off until the secondary grades to do that. So the teachers that I've interacted with love it, and we have some really good support at the district level with Kelly Watt. And
However, it's only been at the Title I schools.
Right.
Correct.
So those of us who
People
have
are-
the Title I schools, we're going to social studies meetings,
So,
and people were lauding.
People are taking this information.
DBQ,
This
we're
is,
like, can you send it
to,
to me?
to this point,
I mean, we didn't hear that.
this is a celebration for Clay County. They got this is something you got right. This is awesome. So this is something that teachers are going and begging for.
right?
No. I'm giving this right.
Things right.
This is what they. This is greatly. I mean, this is great practice, and teachers are starving how to get it. So they're I'm not going to talk about it because I'm on camera. Creatively, find ways to get it done. We're going to help them.
I have one other question that's a little bit off, but I'm just curious, and I'm gonna ask before I'll forget by the time we get through all this today. I know in growing up back in the Stone Ages, you know, one year we would have like Alabama history or Georgia history, depending on where you live. Then you'd have your U.S. history, you would have your world history. And what I want to know is, when do we teach Florida history to our kids?
Fourth grade.
Yeah, it is.
Fourth grade, that
it's
hasn't
a-
changed
it-
since dinosaurs.
Yeah, and it's a requirement for us to
And they go to
implement.
St. Vincent every time.
Do we have both?
And the
US history, fifth grade.
Okay,
So
but all they get of Florida history is just whatever they get in fourth grade? I mean, that's it?
That's about,
That's
across
about
the
it,
state
yeah.
of Florida, that's.
And I mean, that's requirements, and then
Is there
we
more?
go to civics in 7th grade, and then we go to US. Wait,
I mean, some things don't change, but I was just, I wonder.
I mean, if it's something we want to create a highlight and an uber focus on, we
Well,
can do
several
that.
years ago, I talked with Mike Wingate about it, because I had read Margaret's
just
story, and I read Margaret's story finally, and I was so intrigued by that book that I went over to the Hibernia Church and actually walked among the tombstones and the names of the book,
ma'am.
and then a friend of mine told me about where you could find the trees that they planted from the water. I mean, it's history
Yes, ma'am.
alive
Yes,
there,
ma'am.
and I want our kids to understand. I mean, in this book, they're talking about Middleburg and Dr. Inlet and Hibernia and all those streets, the Seatons, the Flemings. I mean, those are all family names down there, and I want so much to make sure that our kids living in Clay County are getting it.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean,
So you want Clay County history?
I want Clay County.
I'm good.
I want
I have to
Clay
take
County.
that class myself. I'm going to have to sign up for that.
I think Mr. Davis should sign up for Clay County.
I do, me and my whole staff, we probably all need to go.
But I really wish that you could embed Clay County history. I'm not asking for a year of it, but I'm just saying, I want them to know something about, I know when we've been naming schools like Rideout. I mean, there's a lot of history when you think about it in Clay County. I'm just
So-
being plugged in for
In
Clay
Leon
County.
County, where I taught fourth grade,
Yeah.
we had a resource for teachers, you may have it here. I would take the kids downtown on a walk, show them the highest
Right.
skyscraper ever built with 1940s in Tallahassee, showed them where the Indians attacked the Chamber of Commerce, but it was a unit for Leon County fourth grade teachers that had everything you're talking about for Clay County for teachers to use, so that we just
I mean,
might
like if you go up to
explore.
Town Hall, there's these gorgeous pictures of how Orange Park used to be and how Kansas, I mean,
So,
I think our kids
that's
ought
awesome.
to
That's awesome. Ms. Goddard, I will say this, it's actually an
So we're
awesome
gonna have
idea.
fourth and fifth grade, carry on.
Dr. Stallman,
Work it in.
I really think
Fourth
that
and fifth grade, okay?
And I want.
this community would
And then
love
a
something like
refresher
that.
at 8.
It would be
Yeah.
awesome. So, I mean, we could have guest speakers, we could have, we probably could write a grant for it, but we can embed that in fourth grade and be a part of the Florida,
And a lot
Oh,
of
I
those
would be
families
so
are still
grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah, all kinds of
That
Oh,
attend
yeah,
some of that.
Middleburg, I mean, Keys, I mean, everywhere.
Yes, ma'am.
Have we ever looked
We
at
just wanna be
taking
off
our
camera.
social studies
We know.
curriculum and embedding it in the arts and music program? Because I would love to see us have a more cohesive art and music program that ties into what we're doing in the classroom.
Go
It
ahead.
depends on the resource teachers, because frequently the resource teachers will work with the individual
Yeah.
groups, because they're looking
But
for
that's not a
themes as well.
standard.
Yeah.
That could be a
And I feel like
recommended
it should be
standard
the
as well.
standard that,
Sure.
you know, we're making the most of that.
Yeah, we can look into it. It's
So,
We haven't brought it to light for our plan for implementation, but we can determine whether or not it actually fits. But it's mostly the teachers are
It's really
taking on the role
school-based.
responsibility, I mean, not taking on their initiative of them going and connecting with the teachers in order to create that opportunity for performance, and whether it's visual or.
so I'm all about the whole child. So I don't mean this to sound that way, but everything that Dr. Stallman described sounds really, really expensive. And I guess one of my questions is if we're delivering to teachers a box of stuff to use, historically, we don't have enough money to buy enough boxes, so every class gets one. So then we're not doing what we should be doing and going in sending the volunteer moms into the copy room and saying, make these copies of this, and the kid, it's not the same, and it's not, and so I guess my question is, I would rather see us buy or scale back.
Right. So what I shared with you is the big picture, and we do have a plan. The plan is for every teacher in K to 3 to have their own box of teacher creative materials. And then in 4 or 5, one box for every 2. And that's because they're departmentalized for the most part. And Dr. Roquin is beating up the vendor for price on that. DBQ basically is very inexpensive. It's just training, and it's a paper product, and you need one set of those per grade level, and it is a copy piece, so you don't need a whole kit. Classroom libraries, they are very expensive, and we're looking at approximately 45 to 50 books per teacher, primarily in grades K to 3, because that's where they could embed it easily. So I have a scaffold plan. As a teacher's heart, I hate sharing. Because if you share, that means you gotta take time to go find it. So we will try to avoid that at all costs. And if we had to share, we would definitely cut back and not use it in 4 or 5, because we would have achieved to use their DBQs.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
And additionally, a couple of years ago, not with classroom libraries as much, but they do it when they purge the media centers. You could directly go back and you can ask Ms. Corey in Mr. Broski's office, because she and I had long discussions about that list, because there were a few years ago there was a direct correlation to the amount of books in a media center at the elementary level to the year that media center was built, because when you build the media center you can put the money in the capital. So Swimming Pen Creek had 38 books per student, and poor little Keystone Elementary had 12 books per student, because after a certain amount of time, just like our portables, they have to be rotated out.
Yeah.
And so my concern is that because what happens is they purge those books, then they go into classroom libraries. And so you're not getting the same.
Right, refunding those for the library
Yeah.
center.
Before we move on, Ms. Peterson had a question.
Yes, I was asking, is there a way, I know you had, when you do your talks around Clay County,
Sure.
we're talking about doing parent groups. I
Yep.
think this is all great, but I would like to know before it's like rammed down our throats as far as the curriculum that we're using, the content. I have young children that there's certain things I don't want the school to teach,
Sure.
but to have that buy-in,
Yeah.
I think that's the one piece that this is all, you're in the right lane, but that one parental
Sure.
conversation about the social study textbook and the
Sure.
teaching about Clay County, those are all things that I think if we can get that conversation with parents before the board meeting and there's a showcase.
Yeah. So we can help parents how to use it. If there's election of we see anything that's controversial, which we won't put anything out. We believe it's controversial. Then a parent has the right to opt out, and we'll provide additional text. But it's our job to identify curricula and implement it. But we can use we'll bring on Parent Academy for 17, 18 to really help, and so they can leverage curricula.
And I think part of what you can do to alleviate some of that is at the start of the school year, when you do parent orientation at your school, you give the parents a list of the standards that are going to be covered that year.
Sure.
And so that way they know this is what we're going to be talking
Sure.
about, this is what to look for. And if at that point you see something that you don't want your child participating in,
Sure.
you can have that conversation with the teacher.
I think
Is that on the school website already?
No.
Not the topic.
Not the topic.
No, but
And then there's the
Should we
standards.
poison it out?
The standards aren't.
and it should be covered in
If a certain
syllabus.
bill passes, we'll have to have public input.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's something we need to look at. I mean, that really should be on our school website so that the parents can look and see.
It should be on the website, but I really believe, just like our student code of conduct, you know, I went to school in, I guess, the Stone Ages now since everything's digital. But there's something to me about having a paper copy of something that,
Sure.
I don't know.
That's how I feel about the phone book. No, no.
You want the regular phone book?
No, not the regular
I'm about to say,
phone
No,
book.
the district phone book that I keep
I don't even have one.
Every record secretary in the district wants the
Oh.
phone book.
Have you
I
noticed that
don't have
nobody is
one.
getting
We need a phone book.
green book, right?
And,
We don't know who's.
So I can ask this question because I don't have one either,
It's
so.
fluid right now. Carl Hendricks is in charge of it, and Carl
Let's try to
Hendricks.
talk.
Listen.
Well, I think it's too fluid right now because
Too
they
many
are
changes.
still.
We can't get an
they're-
organization short.
Well, you know, we're going to that 336 exchange and it's gonna be
Yeah.
totally
Changing
dedicated
everything.
to the school
Great.
system.
That's a
After
great
that's
response.
done.
I mean, it's to the point where you feel like you gotta call you to ask you how to call somebody and where are they?
After the numbers
Because I
are
don't
done and
know
you
whose
place
office is
everybody
where
where you're
anymore.
placing,
I don't even know which
you
side of
know,
the street
send
they're
out
on.
a new list of who the principals are, and please send out a phone book. And every,
Who does
like,
the phone book? I don't even
I'm not
know.
kidding, every
Well, we
record
first gotta
secretary
get
in
our
the district
organization
wants.
chart.
Davis, I'll get you one.
My org chart's done.
I think I have one from 2012.
We did update it when I first got here.
Right,
Remember the green
But
one?
we don't want the big one.
No, the small one.
Yeah.
You can.
But it's
Yeah,
changed.
should be I mean, really,
I don't know if they have that.
it can be, but, it can be, but it's gotta be teacher driven. So it's, but at the end of the day,
It's on
teacher
the-
driven
it's
for them
on
to
the
talk about their
portal.
content.
Yeah, but when I'm driving in
We'll
my
be able
car,
to
I'm not
upload.
looking on the portal.
Yeah.
I'm just
Ms.
thinking, we
Gilhousen?
haven't, like you guys have said, we haven't been teaching social studies. And so,
Yes, we
Yes,
have.
we have.
Well, no, but you know what I'm saying.
It's
We
not
haven't
beyond the
had a-
record that we're not teaching.
when I met, the conversation that has been going on is that we haven't had.
I got you. So at the end of the day, we'll, I got you. We'll be, I'll do this. So teachers usually all right. Teachers cover information during orientation and during their syllabus, but we'll, from a website standpoint, which we're going to launch a new website by end of June, that we'll be able to, we'll have a whole area for curriculum instruction, and it will have so many things uploaded that it's going to be everything will be accessible.
I just went to elementary education on our current website to look at curriculum instruction, which is where our Florida standards probably would be located. And no, they're not, there's no key to hook up to the Florida standards. If I were to go over the standards for, and I was self-contained, so ELA, social studies, science, math, the whole 9 yards, for like an open house, I would be handing out a packet like this. It's, when we do, and I'm speaking, I hope generically for teachers, but and frequently when we do give out information,
I'm sure.
you can't get as detailed, and when you start getting detailed, the eyes glaze over.
Sure.
And
Yeah, I see
so,
what
but
you're saying.
it needs, this is where it needs to start,
Right,
so
and if
that people
teachers
can
could just
say, wait a
go to
second.
this place to see
You know,
the
we're
standards.
talking cursive handwriting, it is in the ELA standards for 5th grade.
But the public.
Embedded
language
way
teachers,
down in there.
Public
But it
language
doesn't
teachers.
get taught. I
That's what I'm
mean,
saying.
after
You've
testing
got
it can
to-
get taught, but not before, because it's
I
not
get a
something.
There is a phone
I
app
get
for all
hammered.
Florida standards
I use
that
it when I walk in class.
you can download and have it, it's right here, it's yellow, and it has the silhouette of the state of Florida, and all Florida standards
Yep.
are in that
And
app.
that's
Nicole,
something that we
can on the website, that's a great
Yeah. That would be
suggestion.
perfect.
So this is what when we walk classrooms, so we're trying to train staff, and oh my gosh.
Take that away.
Oh, right, staff. What's this little thing?
What a pretty little
Just lets you
baby.
hold it.
We're training leaders, principals, to use this app to go in, so when they go in the classrooms, they can see what's actually being taught and does it line with standards, see if we have the quality task. Can we put this on our website? Is that we can do it now as a scroll? Download your app so you understand. We can either do it now or later, but I think that's a great job.
I guess my point for the whole conversation is there's such a misunderstanding of what's being taught
Yeah.
in our schools and what's important to a school district to be
I
taught.
agree.
So I think that whatever we can do to engage parents in that conversation and educate them on this is what
I
we're doing
agree.
in the classroom and make them feel like we're not trying to hide anything that we're teaching your student.
Sure.
Correct.
I think that's a win for everybody.
I agree.
And make it easily accessible, whether it's a paper handout or that this app seems great, but
Yeah.
not everybody has access to
Right.
a phone, so, you know.
I agree.
All right, we're going to the next one, C12. C12, just permission to publish and advertise for social studies textbooks adoption K-5, we just talked about.
So, the only thing that I wanted to say on this is that this looks like it was written as if the meeting on May 2nd has already happened, and we are saying what's going to happen in that. See, it says K-5 teachers reconvened on May 2nd to continue working of adopting grades to K-5 materials. But May 2nd hasn't happened yet. It will happen prior to the meeting, and I understand that, but I was concerned that we're not saying something that hasn't.
Sure, by the time this board is approved, it will have happened, that's why we incorporated
But
just to show.
But is that all accurate?
Well, this isn't accepted or adopted until we vote
This is
on
just
it.
No, I
advertisement.
mean, what happens in that meeting?
It might change.
This is where they're,
Right, that's my point.
Yeah.
I mean, we can look to, yeah, it's not gonna happen, but I mean, we can strike out.
All it's saying is continue the work of adopting grades.
At the end of the day, this is just published and advertised as social studies textbook adoption.
They can go in and correct it
It's
if
just,
they
it's
all
just
get the-
concerning to me that we're not, I guess I'm not communicating my concern well.
No, you stay on.
Join the club.
They-
The adoption of temporary placed on hold is under 2000.
I'll look at that paragraph, I'll look at that
I just don't
paragraph.
think we should be reporting what happens in a meeting before the meeting actually happens. That's my point.
So in other words, they're having a meeting on May 2nd to continue the work of adopting grades K through 5 materials.
Yeah, this doesn't talk about what they've actually
It-
adopted.
No, it does. It
So-
says they
So let's
selected.
just change it to teachers will reconvene, take out the ED and add a will on May 2nd.
And I'll
then
take
approve it
out,
that way.
and we can,
No,
I
because
got
below
you,
that-
I got you.
Because
The
it
next
says,
sentence needs to
they
strike.
selected teacher-created materials for all grade levels. Well, what if they don't? Final surveys were sent to all students on May 2nd.
Alright, that's fair. So we can strike that sentence.
Or a meeting scheduled for May 2nd, or a meeting
Actually,
scheduled for
you can
April
just say
2nd.
May,
There's
we can
lots
just
of
put in
ways
there,
to word it that will
but
cover.
we'll just put in there and talk about.
Get rid of that sentence.
Yeah, we can, I'll redo that whole paragraph. C12, redo paragraph, that's fair.
And you did write down Clay County history, didn't you?
Yeah, we're gonna teach in 4th grade.
Don't forget.
That's a great idea.
Got it.
Terry has it.
Want to make sure we put that in
Sure.
here.
Alright, we'll update that, and that's a good point. C13, permission to publish environmental science textbook. I'll make sure this is, make sure that it's just posting the advertisement. C14 is K-12 academic support student travel. This is where Orange Park, our junior high school, is going to Clay History Delegate in May, Fleming Island in ROTC events. The only one that's passed was Oakley softball, went to Kissimmee Classic and participated in they invite teams if you're nationally ranked, and they're in the top 10 nationally ranked. And they invite the top 40 teams, and they won it.
And they had a really bad season.
You made it, right?
And they had a bet, yep.
And he
And
left
you made it
after
that
one
night,
meeting.
didn't you?
I did. I made it late that night so I could watch Fridays and Saturdays.
Awesome.
So they Fridays, yeah, so they won it. I'm excited, and they are ranked in every poll in the nation in the top 10.
Oh, man.
So,
Great.
But you know, the sad thing is, just back on the supplement thing, and I don't know how you fix this in public school,
yes, ma'am.
but that coach is not supplemented anymore for the amount of time to go further than
Oh,
one who doesn't
Yeah.
make it that far.
I think
Yeah.
Oh, well.
They're good. We got here some Oak Leaf High School, Orange Park's dance team will go to the World Golf Village too, so that's kind of we've done.
Thank you for changing the 2 rate. I appreciate that.
No worries.
The appropriate use of 2.
Yes, ma'am. C15 is just professional development for St. John's Country Day. All Title IIA funding that falls under, that we have to distribute out is a pass-through for us. And this is just acknowledging their workshop that they want to do. C16 is, it's a National School Nurse Week, May 6th through 12th. Just acknowledging that resolution. C17 is another partnership or opportunity for us to engage with Intel Math professional development To date, we've had 113 Clay County teachers that have attended Intel Math program for professional learning, and this is an opportunity for us to have 120 more teachers be exposed to this, and this is paid through DODEA grants, DODEA grant funding. And teachers who attend every one of the sessions receive $1,000 for completing this project. And we see this as really helping our teachers from a conceptual understanding of how to understand math. And we believe it to be a good practice. This is another tool that was a great strategy for implementing best practices. Anything cool?
I heard the stocks went like that.
Oh, if I had money.
They have
Right.
more than,
It is-
they
You could
have more
sell this.
applications
It's
than they have positions.
you
It
know.
is such a heavy content, and I think they really they're trying to go from, math today is like, I mean, I thought math
2 plus
was
2 is not
awful
4 anymore.
in the dinosaur age, but now it's craziness. I don't even know what it is, but this is great because this allows our teachers
Yeah.
to get so in depth on, on their training. It's good stuff.
And this allows us to create model teachers once they conceptually understand content.
Yeah.
And I wish that there were a way that we could somehow advertise.
Just gotta hear from
Got the flow because.
I wish there was a way that we could incorporate or encourage more schools
Yeah.
representation across the board where I was talking with the person responsible for this the other evening at the military open house, and it was, there are schools that have participated that haven't participated since, and others that have never participated, and I wish we could somehow
I thought they
encourage
actually,
some
when,
others.
Mary, I thought they were actually going, like, Elizabeth told me, like, I know one of the cohorts was all Orange Park Junior, and another cohort was all like another school. I thought they were going school by school, but I might, is it Dr. Stallman, when do
The
you
problem
know?
with this grant is that it is DODEA funded and you have to have a certain amount of
Right.
Oh,
families
that's
in
right.
that.
And
And
militaries.
so we do have a whole pathway of schools that are not, the stipend can't be funded. The teachers could go, but we couldn't offer the
This-
stipend,
the
so.
$1,000 supplement they
Right.
couldn't obtain.
So
Now,
they could attend, but it's the
if,
stipend that's
enticing
to some.
But
obviously.
to your
Yeah.
points, absolutely correct. I am meeting with a group in the next 2 weeks that maybe potentially can bring in-kind funding, and this would be a perfect avenue to compensate teachers if we can get through the fund, educational fund, to help them and incentivize them to have that match to attend.
Because
I
math
agree with
and
what
language
people-
arts are always the
They're going
the
to
big,
always
the
be,
biggies. I mean, for teachers right now, there's a lot of angst out there on the LEA blocking, and also the angst of this new math program that you're bringing in, mostly because of the unknown. I mean, if they're not involved in the process, and there's good things on Facebook about it, people seem to like it in other counties, because believe me, I say, go ask people
Yes,
to do it.
that's it.
Because I can't give them a guidance on it, because I don't know myself.
Yeah, it's really high level stuff.
But there is gonna be you're gonna get calls,
Oh,
school board members, because there is, teachers are very apprehensive of changing things, and they're very much anti any scripted stuff. And a lot of this stuff is scripted, and, we will hold firm on our abilities to teach kids. We actually think when our entire programs are scripted, that it borderlines on us not doing our job. Why need us if we don't use our skills and what we do to teach? Then you might as well just bring somebody else in and read a program to them. So we will defend that in this county, this ability to autonomize and within our classrooms.
We'll
That
have.
was my speech of the day.
It's okay. It's okay. Any curriculums I bring are going to be research-based and nationally driven based, so I'm not concerned with it. End of the day, curriculums are set and established to teach content, and the way that a teacher teaches that with their uniqueness and creativity will never be challenged. So I'm fine with that from all angles.
Thank you, sir.
Any
Yes,
other
ma'am.
questions?
All right, C18 is FLICA Youth Challenge 27-18 payroll calendar. Actually met with FLICA the other day, and we knew that they were around $600 $600,000 in the hole in reference to being able to fund the program or initiative. I was very open with them in February and told them that we were only going to pay for the FTE that we generated from the program, because we do generate FTE from them. And I told them every dollar that we generate for FTE that we will roll back to them, and that's around $176,000. And they found $600,000 to continue the program. So it's
Good, you get a gold star on that one.
Say that louder.
So we have an extra 500,000?
It's not our money. No. I should have said that. Take that back.
Yes.
I feel another speech coming up.
I know.
Starting to think of it.
Mr. Superintendent.
Any money I find is going to staff raise. I promise you. After we identify curriculum and figure out operations. All right. So, any questions on C18?
You did good.
Lee Piva. I know. Some days she's Miss Lee when I'm in trouble. All right, internal accounts audits. This is just fiscal year 16. Just give you every update of every audits within that Mrs. Campbell conducted internally. If you have time to go and read this, you will see that we need to really have some hefty professional learning with bookkeepers. And for a number of reasons, not that we haven't had professional development, is that we have a lot of mobility in these positions. And when you say mobility, not only with the bookkeeping, but you have a lot of mobility with teachers as well, and how financial money is controlled, and receipts, and what you can and cannot do with money. So I've asked Ms. Campbell, after reviewing these, and seeing a number of concerns. And you can see at the end, you may just want to go at the end, there's a summary page in here that you can see that tallies everything, all of our findings, that you'll be able to see what schools we have the greatest concerns at, and what areas we need professional development. This is new for this year that Ms. Campbell created, that we work together to identify, so they can really so we can be intentional about what professional development we offer for the end of the year, summer, and beginning of the year, so that we can continue to have a cycle of professional learning versus continuing to say you're doing this wrong, and we got to continue to coach. And
Is that graph somewhere?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, it's in the back.
May I ask something?
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
I was looking at one of the attachments there that had, the number of findings
Yes.
total, and I almost fell
there it
off
is.
the chair. No, that's not it.
The
other one.
530 at the end?
Oh, yeah.
It's in the bottom.
It's at the bottom of that.
And I thought, boy,
The bottom one.
Ronnie, I bet you just about fell off the chair too when you
Yeah.
saw that.
There it
But
is.
my
We've never seen
question-
this before.
I mean,
You've never seen it summarized
like
before.
this.
That's correct.
The
And I
audits
mean,
actually look better this year than they have
Really?
in some
And what
years.
my question is because I know in past years we've had a problem or two out in schools,
Sure.
But is the training for this done just individually at the schools, or is there like a county-wide something that all the bookkeepers or this
We
come
have-
in, or how do you do
We
that?
currently have one fall bookkeepers meeting when all 42 bookkeepers come together,
Okay.
and we talk about what the current situations are.
Mhm.
For some, it's enlightening, for some, it's a waste of their time.
Yeah.
If you've been a Clay County School Board bookkeeper for 15 years, I'm not really telling you anything new, okay? But those newer ones I might be, or I might be talking about a situation that never comes up at your school. You don't ever deal with tickets at a football game as an elementary school. So to pull them out of their schools and away from their schools, which can be detrimental to both the administration and the teachers, they don't always like to let them come to a meeting that's all of them. The training in the past has mostly been one-on-one. We've got, right now, we don't have a bookkeeper at Ridgeview High, okay?
Not at all.
The new one is starting hopefully next week, I hope, okay? And
31.
I will sit with her 4 or 5 days straight, all day long, do whatever it takes to get her where she needs to be, okay? There's some others that have only been with us 6 months. There's some that have been with us 2 years. I go through a process each month where I identify things each month. And I meet with those ones, or I talk on the phone with them to train them.
Yeah,
To
like,
not waste everybody's time and to pull them out of their schools.
and since you've got that chart now, what this one, you know, you've
Yes,
got it,
ma'am.
so now you know where you can see what the problems are.
Yes, ma'am.
And then hit
And
it.
this is on last year, okay? Some of these bookkeepers aren't even in the same building, okay? They're at a different school.
Right,
So I still have to work with them at that school
right,
because policy is the same across the county,
right.
how we do it. But there are some individual school things. You can be inside policy and do it 42 different ways sometimes.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is this is going to lend us to differentiate individualized professional development, but also offer big ticket items to all of them. So whether we bring them out every 2 months and new ones probably need to go every month, but everyone else every 2 months. I hate to say it, but we've got to do something and try to minimize the 530 findings that
Yes.
Ms. Campbell found internally. So
And,
a lot of concerns.
and
We're going to
there's
tie this
checks
to
and
principal
balances.
evaluation as
Oh,
well.
yes, ma'am.
I
Gotta
think,
have some checks and balances in there, because we've had a couple situations in the
Yes,
past.
ma'am. Yes,
and I think beyond that, tying it to principal evaluations, but not just that, including this in training, professional development for all the school staff, because, and I will not say where I've been, but I have been in schools where I have heard people say, we're gonna do this fundraiser outside of the school, so that we don't have to go through.
controls.
Well, because they don't wanna have to fill out all the paperwork for the
Yeah.
bookkeeper. The bookkeepers are already known as money Nazis. But then outside of that, they'll do t-shirt sales.
You heard it here first, money Nazis.
Did you say?
I got you. I got you for having
Oh,
major.
I've heard that
I got you for having major
We don't
controls.
see.
I'm sorry?
For having major controls in the
He's
schools.
covering his ears up back there.
Well, I didn't mean it in a derogatory way. The bookkeepers, people avoid the bookkeepers. I can't think of another cliche that you won't get mad at, but my whole point is that that we have teachers who don't understand the gravity
Yes, ma'am.
of what can happen, and
Right.
then Mr. Daggett is gonna have an
Yes, ma'am.
issue, because at some point, some parent's gonna
Oh,
say, I wrote a check for a
Yep.
junior class t-shirt,
Better cheerleader costume.
Yeah.
and I didn't get it,
This
and
is-
there's no
yep.
receipt written,
And this is the quickest way individuals lose their
The
jobs.
biggest way to get in trouble.
They lose their jobs and to bring undesired press to this organization. So all that, anyone that interacts with money, anyone that interacts with receipt books will go through should be a biannually professional development at the beginning of the year, and then also mid-year again for the second wave of athletics and sports and activities. So we will, I've asked Ms. Campbell for a kind of a plan. I think it was late last night, I'm sorry. To kind of
Was
start.
it 1, 2 o'clock in the morning?
Everybody's getting used to.
I'm
Can I
gonna.
ask you a question?
Then we should answer you after
What do you,
5.
how do you count per school? Do you go in individually for each of these schools
Yes, ma'am.
and look at everything? You look at every receipt book, you look at every,
I look at every receipt book, I don't look at every money's collected form.
Okay,
I do a
yep.
sampling, I have
Yep.
to do a minimum of 10%.
yep.
If I find problems, of course, I do more.
Because I was at Argyle,
Yes, ma'am.
and I know,
Trimmer.
yeah, the person, and I wouldn't, she was strict. And I'm looking at this going, well,
But
I
all,
want to know what the two were at Ridgeview Elementary.
It's
I
on there.
only,
It's on
no,
there.
I
If you
only
look-
two, you know,
as
but I
part
mean,
of this
it's like
attachment are the
there's-
individual audits.
you
Or
answered
supplement.
one for Ridgeview High School, I mean, that was a lot higher than most
We should
others,
get that
but
version of supplement.
it was like, it's amazing how many variations, how many
Some
school
schools don't
mistakes
do
there are.
anything, that's just they
It
do.
can be
We
a
have
new
a
principal
fundraiser
or a
problem
new
now
bookkeeper.
anyway because of
Sometimes a new principal who
Did we
doesn't,
just change
who
healthy choices or
isn't
whatever
as
that
supportive
whole
of the
thing is.
bookkeeper as they need
She
to
wants
be.
me to be able to
Sometimes
be able to
that's
sell
hard.
snacks.
You've got that bookkeeper spouting policy,
And the
and
principal
without the
doesn't.
principal's support, it's not gonna happen.
We had,
Pizza.
but Ms. Carrigus, we do have a problem fundraising now in the school system because we have 2 healthy choices now in Clay County.
Yeah, we can't
So
sell
we
snacks.
have not just the bookkeeper Nazis around, we have teachers with candy bars in the back of their,
Yes, ma'am.
you know, hidden in their knapsacks.
What she's saying is true.
Like contraband.
You can no longer walk around with a candy bar.
Yeah, so like contraband and selling them for $1, and then how do we process that without?
I walked to the store the other day and they asked me to buy one, so
Exactly.
I'm like, that's totally illegal.
Because how are we gonna fund
Sorry
our
for that.
kids? We have to come with a
I'm
better
dropping my ears
policy.
too, Dave.
We don't want to hear this.
But no, seriously, the question is, it's a calorie thing, but nobody in this school board is making a decision, and
Yeah, I don't.
it's critical. Because how do our kids get to go to
They
drama
don't get to go to
or
the activities.
any of these activities because they can't fundraise? So we've got to make a decision on what can they sell. Healthy.
And that might be why some of them.
Well,
only
nobody
have
will
two
tell us what that is. Is that caloric?
Well, I guess it might be an appropriate time to ask the rest of the board, because this was news to me, and I don't know that it should have been a board decision. Maybe it's in a policy that we haven't gotten through or whatever, but I didn't know that we could fundraise online using credit and debit cards.
Oh.
And there are currently school fundraisers that you.
Like a GoFundMe.
Well,
they
are
can-
you sure it's not through an outside organization
No.
like Jump Rope for Heart?
I didn't know that either.
If it's GoFundMe, schools have been told no.
It's not a GoFundMe.
Okay.
It's some
So do they just
website
have
you
a
click
PayPal
on
account?
through, I
And
don't
you
even
get
know how I
money?
got there.
Now, we do have schools that accept credit cards through RevTrak, but those funds go straight into the school's checking account.
Yeah, and I think it was one done through
Is it
that.
RevTrak?
Yeah, but it's a fundraiser, I think, through RevTrak. I just didn't know, I wasn't familiar what RevTrak was.
RevTrak is a system where our schools, and we just started it this year. We started it in the high schools, that seemed to be where the biggest need for it was. It's RevTrak, parents can go online and pay for a field trip, a band fee, a cheerleading
And
costume.
they put lunch.
Lunch
Or is
goes
that
through
separate?
school food services, they have a separate program. But all these funds are tied directly to the school. The school has to put the item up there saying, you can pay for the field trip. You can pay for this. Parent clicks on it, parent pays for it with a debit card or a credit card. Those funds are deposited into the school's checking account.
Okay.
They're not going into some other company and maybe they send us a check. They're going directly into the schools. The school has to know about it because RevTrak can't put the item up there if the school bookkeeper does not send in the information for the parent to pay that.
That's much easier than sending a check in.
It's
Yeah.
much easier
You
than
know it
sending a
gets
check.
Yeah.
I just wasn't aware of it.
And some
Until one popped up.
some parents want the ability to put
Well, and
some
that's
large
true.
fees on credit cards, band fees, cheer
So we
fees.
have less problems with insufficient funds through that too.
Doing it that way, yes ma'am. It really works. We have a couple of schools that are cash only. Yes ma'am. It's a principal-based decision. They make their schools cash only, and it's to reduce the cost of NSF checks. I'm assuming is the main reason why they do
They probably
it.
had a historical trend of that happening.
Yes.
How many schools are like that?
I know of a high school, I know of a junior high, and I think there's an elementary. They're all in the Oak Cliff area. Okay? And they've done it for years, and it's worked for them.
Right.
It really has worked for
Heard
them.
that negotiation.
But you do have students coming to school at times with large amounts of cash.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And so parents being able to go online and pay for that works. I want to say Oak Leaf High School also did, I think it was homecoming tickets or prom tickets, one or the other. They did 100% online,
Yeah, yes.
and that worked out very well for them. Oak Leaf has been probably the leader in utilizing RevTrak.
It's called RevTrak.
RevTrak, RevTrak. We have used it for a number of years in adult community ed for them to pay for the Spanish class or the sewing class or that kind of thing.
Do we pay them fees?
We do not pay the school, it does not cost the school anything. They don't have to do a fundraiser to cover RevTrak fees. When that parent pays, it's attached to them.
Attached to them.
Basically a convenience fee.
Yeah, it's just like going
Like
if
a
you could.
GoFundMe.
Well, if you're gonna go buy a ticket at Ticketmaster
Right.
or online, it's
Right.
convenient.
But we literally only charge the parents to the penny what RevTrak charges us. It's not a fundraiser for us.
All right.
Any other questions?
Let's move it along.
Yep, C20 is 16-17 proposed allocation changes, and on this is school board term. Alright. C21 is warranty and vouchers. Sorry,
So that's
Florence.
not this, so that's not this year's annual.
No, no, so
That's next
it's
year.
17.
That's 17.
I didn't see it.
Sorry, Florence and Val.
You know,
Might
it's
need a
different,
warranty.
it used to be under deputy superintendent,
Oh, okay.
and we no longer have that category, so it's, I had to look for it too.
So this is warrants and vouchers. Sorry, the next one is budget amendments for the month of March. Then we have financial reports for the month of March. Property for equipment and furniture. C25 is AV materials. And I don't mean to be disrespectful going through them if you stop me if there's one you want to talk about. And C26 is software. C27 is vehicles. C28 is deletion of any items. C29 is, this is our interlocal agreement between Clay County Sheriff and the school board. This is where there's a need for us to source for low price gasoline for their vehicles that they service and use at Middleburg.
So, just real quick, I would like to say on this, because it ties into this particular thing. So, I went to the county commission meeting last month to speak on behalf of the sheriff applying for a grant to put, among other things, put school resource officers in our junior high schools. It did pass the county commission. It was not completely, it was not as well received as I had hoped it would be. If you go back and watch the meeting, it's worthwhile for especially board members to go back and watch that section. Because what will happen is if they get this grant they're applying for, the sheriff's office, it's a 3-year grant. At the end of that 3 years, the sheriff's office owns the officers. And so one of the topics of discussion that came up in the county commission meeting, one commissioner in particular said the school board needs to be paying for all their officers. We currently don't. So currently the officers we have is something like, I think they said $1.6 million, and we currently pay like $600,000, $700,000.
$450,000 we pay.
Okay, we pay
Yeah.
$450,000 and it costs us like 1.6. With having these additional resource officers, it'll go up, our amount will go up to like 2.5. Now that also includes our crossing guards. So that's crossing guards and resource officers. So one commissioner said, I think the school board should be funding all of theirs.
Really?
And other commissioners did not agree. It was a discussion, and it's worthwhile to go back and watch, and I think there's a little bit of posturing there. Basically, they were saying the school board needs to be carrying their share. I bring this up because I don't think this kind of thing was considered in the discussion. So when we have, they're gonna be coming to ask the school district to fund more of this. And I will pay more attention to it as the liaison to the county commission. But I wanted to publicly let you guys know, I did send an email to Mr. Davis and Dr. Gutko immediately the next day that said, heads up, this is, and actually the Clay Today had a very accurate article about the, so if you just have time, read that article, but if you get time, watch that one particular part of their meeting, and then just be aware, they're gonna be asking us for more money. And I don't know how this can play in, hey wait, but we also are giving, sourcing the gas.
Yep. And
The additional funds used to be funded by the state years ago, and so we had resource officers at our junior high and our high school, and we, covered a certain amount. It was probably a little less than the $450.
Right.
And the rest was covered through the state, and then when they did away with it,
Well, we still get the safe school
we get safe school
dollars,
funding.
but it's been cut so drastically. It's about, it's been averaging about 600,000. And of course, a lot of that pays for the SRO's contract in addition to, I think, 1 or 2 positions and some positions
And
at
the
school.
other wrinkle in the fabric is that most likely the new exemption, homestead exemption is going to pass in Tallahassee, which adds another 25,000. And so they are going to be cut, the county's budget is going to be cut significantly. So they're going to be looking at
And
so
I-
is the school.
and ours will be as well.
No, I know ours is, but the whole point was they're going to be looking for places to cut.
And Ms. Condon, I appreciate you bringing this up. I have had multiple conversations with the sheriff, with Darryl Daniels, their CFO, about our financial status. It sounds like I need to get in front of all the commissioners so they better understand where we are financially. My understanding that a number of them have been in that role for a while, so I don't know if there's not been connectivity between here and there, but regardless, I will go, and if I have to meet with them at scale, to really help them understand where we are financially so they can understand what we're able to do and not able to do. I did tell the sheriff that down the road, if we can really move to be fiscally healthy, that we could maybe potentially help down the road. We're not into that situation now. The initial cost of the $600,000 just pays for our personnel now, but what the ultimate cost is we talk about vehicles, we talk about armor, equipment, ammunitions, weapons, those trainings, those kind of things. That's when you start to get larger in the growth of how much it actually will cost them. But I appreciate being the liaison, and Darryl, he's all for it, and he's going to push to make
It wasn't an issue within us. It was the commission, and it seemed to be philosophical.
Yeah.
It seemed,
No, that's fair.
The one commissioner who said we should be paying for all of ours, that seemed to come across philosophical. I didn't take it offensively.
Sure.
I understand they're elected to do their thing, and we're elected to do ours. I think it's maybe we haven't had as good of a relationship that we should have.
I'll try to.
And that liaison, to have that, or to work together as governmental bodies. But then I think also now the sheriff did seem to indicate he thought that in his discussions with you, there were maybe some additional Safe Schools monies that we could put a little bit more toward. I specifically said, after I had prepared little, we feel, as a district, we support officers in our junior highs. And then and I told them a few reasons why. We've seen more discipline cases that have, led to younger, we see that age group, that kind of thing. But then I specifically said, I am not prepared to speak today on any of the finances. I will take that information back to the rest of the board and the district. So
Sure.
that's
No
not.
worries. Just if you need me, leave me in. I'll gladly go.
Sure.
And
I'll communicate that as well.
Yes, ma'am. And I appreciate. I don't think we have P funded. I told Darryl that as well. So.
No, and really, I think we're at the point where we've got to renew that contract.
Yep.
It is, so that is a discussion that needs to happen.
And I appreciate this,
I
you being
guess
an
you're
advocate,
right.
because this is, our soft spots are elementary, you see it national trend wise, and having more individuals at junior highs allows us to cover more ground and have rotationals to where we can have a schedule where they go to elementaries every day, just to say, hey, how can I help you, or face and have time on task at schools between the 13. Hey, and it's about building relationships. It's not about enforcing, it is about enforcing the law, but it's about how you interact positively with a student advocate and a role model with law enforcement. So I think it's good.
Ms. Beth has something she'd like to add.
Yeah, a couple
Former
things,
police.
For a question proposed here. Is this money coming out of operational funding?
It's part of the categorical, yes.
Is it a categorical or is it
Yes.
coming out of the general fund?
It's
It
a
is
categorical
And
specific
what is,
for safe schools.
yeah, so what is the categorical total?
It's 602,
602,000?
yes, for right now. Could change.
It could change.
And my other thing is, I'm gonna absolutely support, Mr. Davis, to go in front of the commissioners, because it is, people move to Clay County because of schools. And you have Richmond builders on 220 that you go by every day who says, big huge sign out there on 220 going, great schools. Great schools moved here. So, I think sometimes the county commissioners kind of forget, because I've listened to this so many times on impact fees, and we're gonna waive them again or do whatever. We never waived the school ones, but they shoot themselves in the foot all the time.
Yeah.
Of waiving this, because we're so adamant that services cost money. You're not gonna get around that. And if you want a good school system, you want a great school system. We want a great school system. It costs money. So yeah, it's a cooperation between the county commissioners and us. And somewhere we gotta find, because I see this in the last 4 years, this back and forth. So if we need to bring parents in, everybody saw on social media the big fight at Orange Park High School?
No, at the mall.
At the, no, not the high school, at the
Please don't
mall.
say I'm not-
So you're talking about-
That's too bad.
At the mall, whenever it was.
It was the mall.
It's the resource officers that stop stuff like that. It's the resource officers and the relationships at the junior high level, because that's what's really missing. Because,
I agree.
you know,
That's
if you
the
don't get it
leadership.
at the junior high, you know, you don't get it at grade 6, at the end of there, when we used to have the DARE program in. You know,
Yeah.
we not only had resource
Yeah.
officers at the junior high and senior high, we had them in the elementaries.
Yeah.
So it was a whole different culture we've had here. So we need to, you know, and I applaud, you know, Mrs. Condon for going there and speaking on behalf, but, you know, somewhere around here, we gotta make the county commissioners realize, whoa, people move to Clay County, what's the first thing out of every real estate office person's mouth?
I mean, it should drive
Great
everything we
schools.
do as a system, you're right.
And
Thank
y'all,
Are you coming out of retirement?
I'm not,
Okay,
I'm
Shasta.
gonna be a real estate agent.
this has been something that comes up every year, the financial dance between the sheriff and the superintendent of schools. It happens every year. And I do believe that you and Sheriff Daniels can sit down and work something out, and then together
Yes, ma'am.
plead your case to the county commission.
Yes, ma'am.
Because, I mean, you two are, I know in my heart, y'all can get things worked out.
Yes, ma'am. Will do, thank you. We're on to the next one, which is C30, I believe. This is Keystone Heights repiping. As of right now, the recommendation is to rebid this project. We only had one vendor that came out and contractor that came out and provided an amount that we thought that was $125,000 over what we kind of spec'd out to be able to build it. So with that, we were asking to allow us to rebid this process so that we can open this up to surrounding counties. The surrounding,
Like Alachua?
like Alachua to a Bradford outside of Keystone, and the one that is WWGA. And people just don't, and it's a long drive if you're on the north top of the county, so we want to really make sure that we're getting a fair price and really award someone who gives a price that's aligned with what our engineers think this task kind of brings for us. So, any questions? We're going to do that as soon as we can get it done. Next one is Clay High School culinary contract. This is going to be a summer completion contract, and it's just the redo of the kitchen, which is for to bring it up to industry standards. This is awarding the contract. Who's getting this contract? Okay, Vaughn Rivers Construction. Okay.
Grant funding.
Thank you. C32 is just pre-qualification contractors, those who wish to do business. Maybe someone want to go to Keystone and do our work out there. That's not we need it. Next one is Keystone Heights Elementary Parent Pickup. Once again, this is we want to rebid this one as well because they came in again at $523,000 when we think this project is going to be around $420,000. So we're in a time where we want to reject all bids, maybe potentially change the scope of the work and redesign it so that we can be within the cost factor that we budgeted this to take place. Dr. Kemp, anything that you want to add?
Market conditions are really impacting that outside area. And when the local construction market is going great and that they're busy, it's very difficult to get bidders to show up. Even at pre-mandatory bid, we have people show up for pre-mandatory bid meetings, but then no one submits a bid. So, you know, because the market here locally is so much better than traveling out, so we're doing everything we can do for Keystone. They actually call it a Keystone factor. I mean, there's a factor involved in getting people from here to there, and the cost involved, the financial factor, right? When the market here, if the market wasn't so good locally, we'd be a little more competitive to have more opportunities out there.
And this will allow us to reach out to Gainesville as well, right?
Gainesville.
But this says rebid at a later date, and my concern is if we don't move quickly, and we may be beyond the window already, we're not going to have any relief for next school year. Meanwhile, the Catholic Church is fencing off that property. Sure. They are closing off that road, so we're losing what used to be teacher parking. Right. Now it's mostly become parent parking that they're walking over. So we already go down 2 major streets with parent pickup line. Not even just like parents waiting in the loop, but so it's parents going down streets and blocking traffic. It's a real concern. So I mean, just saying rebid at later date.
It's valid. So at the end of the day, Dr. Kemp, our rebid process, if this is approved at the board, can we get it done in the next 30 days?
Typically, the process is 30 days, but you know, the issue for us is it was 100 and something thousand, 100,000 over. Taking it $518,000, it was $100,000 over, which would require board approval to come back to continue the project anyway, even if we had the funding. You know, we did not budget for that, so 30 days, Bryce?
We could, but we wouldn't have the opportunity to bid out to Alachua County, because they have to get pre-qualified in the process to get pre-qualified.
We don't have, let me ask you this, and I'm sorry, we don't have a CM that we can go to now and say, hey, this is what we have, let's get this done?
Yes, sir.
Is that something we can do in the future?
The only concern I have is,
Because
I was driving on the road that goes behind the elementary school, between the elementary school and the high school, Orchid Avenue, to go pick up my son one day last week, and I had a parent stop in the middle of the road, and a little child, run. They had come across the crosswalk, they had followed and then the parent stops in the middle of the road to pick up the child. And it's just a situation.
Accident waiting to happen.
Yeah. And I know if it were more convenient to go through the pickup line, the parent wouldn't be doing that, because we weren't anywhere near the pickup line.
Sure.
The pickup line's on the other side of the school.
Has anyone talked to the Catholic Church to explain to them the situation that the dire need, that we can get it done by the fall?
Well, what we
They
can
just be
do
more
is we can
patient?
pay their $3,000 temporarily
What
until
do
we
they
get
want?
it. They want $3,000.
They want $3,000 to do a survey, to then tell us what they want us to pay in rent.
What?
They want to value that little strip of property.
I thought their letter was, Dr. Kemp, I thought their letter was.
You have bingo on Friday nights.
Is that correct? Dr. Kemp, hold on,
I don't want to miss
sorry, hold on one second.
I may still
Dr.
have it
Kemp,
with me.
I thought the letter, and I'll look at it, was a
Yeah,
$3,000 one-side fee to use their facility.
I'd like to verify.
Okay, and I'll look at that as well. I'm not paying $3,000 for a survey.
I think this warrants a letter home to the parents, letting them know the situation that we're in and that we are trying to save, $100,000 and doing everything we can to get somebody to come in at a better, and asking the parents to please be extra cautious and, put safety first, and just let them know that we are working on it and doing the best that we can to have this, hopefully, this problem resolved before the start of the school year.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Brian, how long does it, you said they would have to get pre-qualified?
They have to get pre-qualified.
And so how long, that takes what, a month? So we're talking 2 months at the.
Yes.
And how long's the project to complete?
We were gonna do it over the summer, 9 weeks.
So
We're
why
into
wouldn't
the
we
school
jump
year
on that
anyways
too?
already now.
Even if it
Wouldn't
takes
we
2
get
months
done?
to get them pre-qualified and get on with it.
Well, let's
Because it
just
sounds like
commit
we
to
need a
that.
Alachua.
And
To do
maybe
what?
we can
Let's just
shorten
commit
that.
to that. Let's just commit to going ahead, getting somebody pre-qualified. I was just concerned when it says rebid
It's-
at a later date, that could be next
We
year.
just,
I don't think-
we did that because we want to rebid immediately. We can take that off. We want to rebid immediately because we want to get this done. It's for the same reasons you talked about today.
It wouldn't do any good to rebid though until you get.
The contractor for.
On and back on the Catholic Church, that situation is a little bit complicated in that,
Sounds like
Priest is retiring at the end of June.
We'll kind of
And so
revisit
he
this
was
and-
trying to tie up all their loose ends. So we
Okay.
got the letter from the attorney, and he was just trying, so we sent a letter back saying, didn't we send a letter back saying, no, thank you?
Right, we're not interested.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we don't want to get at war with our Catholic friends
No,
in
no, no.
Casco.
They were
Sherry
happy,
says she's gonna be able to go out there.
they were happy with us saying, we respect your property and we respect your right to do that.
Well, if we go out and get
You
them
need to lay us
set
on,
in 2 months.
because
we
I
can
can
set
offer
it.
like bingo on Friday nights. And we're in like.
Is that a fundraiser?
As a raised Catholic, I got this down.
Is that a,
He can be your
I
caller.
don't know if that's a fundraiser or are you gonna add a supplement? I don't know.
You're the caller on Friday night.
We can make that on every Friday night, Teresa, that's nothing.
Yeah, we can raise a bunch of
Damn,
money.
Because we need that parking.
This
for-
guy's
Don't lose it. We're losing it.
All right, we'll make certain that we get some feedback, and I'll review that letter as well. If it's $3,000 survey, I'm with you.
That's what it was.
I'm not
I had
paying
a heart
for-
attack when I read it.
Because I knew when I read it, I looked at Ms. Bush and I said, "There's no way." So it could be that. I thought we just used it. So
C-34 is next, middle.
is this is industry standard for kitchen upgrade. This is being awarded to the Core Construction. We approved the
We did
bid
the
process.
elementary. We did the kitchen in Middleburg.
Well, I'm
Middleburg
looking at
Elementary.
culinary arts.
Yeah, this is for the high
This
school.
is the high school.
This
Right,
is,
this for the Culinary Arts Academy?
yes, ma'am, this is awarding.
And I thought we did that, we haven't done
We
it
did
yet.
Middleburg Elementary.
No, I'm talking about the Culinary Arts Academy. Was the $1 million grant that we got?
Sure, this
last
is
year?
part of it.
Is
This
it-
is part of it. So
part
this
of
is
it?
get, that one
So
was
we're
open
finally
it.
doing it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
That's
This
why
is
I was-
awarding the,
Thank you.
acknowledging and
Awarding the
awarding the
contract to do
contract.
it. Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Got it.
Okay, this is, same thing for C-35. This is awarding a contract for, front entrance security to Gray S. Bailey Construction. This is around $500 and some thousand that, for the educational facilities plan funding to be used for the number of schools that are listed that we already approved to send out. And to our systems.
And the front of our district's office down here looks very nice.
Thank you.
They've done a good job working on it.
Staff worked hard,
Thank you.
and I know dealing with me and then having Miss Bush and Miss Dennis come out to look at it, it's been hard because they want to be able to make it look nice. They did a wonderful job. C-36 is this is a deductible change order for Doctor's Inlet Alarm System. This is where we want to deduct the tax on the actual award, and we will have a tax savings of $2,600. So this is just reducing it to save money. Same thing with C-37, just making sure we get our taxes back from the change order for Orange Park Junior High School parking lot, which is a savings around $1,200. Can't write those ones down, really.
It's part of the bingo fund.
Okay, all right, so I think we go to discussions, is this correct? Yep. D2 is a public hearing for, to advertise for Algebra 1 Financial Literacy textbook. D3 is for us, this is the public hearing for the selections of the 612 social studies curricula that was identified.
I have a question.
Which
Are
one?
we adopting a new book in math? Didn't we just have a math adoption 2 years ago? When we bought in all those Carnegie books?
Yes.
This is financial literacy, this is, I believe.
For Algebra 1?
But this is the change in
This is the
the
This is
change in
required,
course.
yeah, this is.
This is a course change.
Can we get a refund
Yeah.
from all those books that are stored in everybody's closets? It's hundreds of thousands of dollars of books.
This is additional too, this is not in isolation. This is Carnegie still being implemented. All right, C4. Oh, sorry, D4, sorry, I go reverse. This is public hearing for amendments to 428, the chaperones language that we talked about last school meeting, school board meeting. C5 is CPR. This is, I would like to bring a policy change for graduation where every student who takes personal fitness will have to become CPR trained. This is a 30 to 40 minute training for every one of our students. This will be in all of our high schools. Our high school teachers we've surveyed them. They have approved and excited about implementing some of this and see the value of it. The American Heart Association has provided all of the equipment necessary, along will provide all the training free of cost.
That worked out nice.
Yes, ma'am, it did.
And
And hard work, Mr. Karakas has been working with them, and I think it's a great initiative and it sends messages for our district.
What grade will that be?
It could range, but it could be range. Yeah, yes, ma'am. It's an elective class. It could range.
It's a requirement.
Right, but it's not
American Heart Association.
No, not a set. No, ma'am. So it'll range for who get. We'll ultimately be able to see every physical fitness is required.
You're incorporating it in personal fitness.
Yes, ma'am.
And when do kids normally take that course? Is it?
It could be ninth grade.
Mostly
Some
ninth grade, yeah.
it could be 10th grade, 9th grade. So we want to make sure.
Is this all just for the kids, or is this going to be offered for teachers?
This is for kids. You want me to offer something for teachers?
No, I got it covered.
I can. We can.
It's already been offered for some. Just want to make it redundant, didn't want to make it redundant.
Yes, ma'am.
It would be nice if maybe our wellness committee could look at offering that for all employees.
I think so too. It'd be helpful if bus drivers had that, training and monitors. When we do run it, we run those courses, and we actually charge for it. Well, we don't charge, but the American Health, but there's also another place that I might send some people to train the trainer. And I've asked CESPA to send one of the nurses to train the trainer on that. So we're actually currently thinking that through. But yes, you're right, it absolutely should be offered.
I will see if we can do that. Sorry, I'm just writing
Save
this down.
school funds.
It's gotta pay for, it's gotta pay for
I
personnel.
think it should be a categorical, I think it is safe the school funds. I think you can make that argument. It's the get-go.
Let's see the wellness committee first.
Alright, sorry, I'm writing that
See
down.
our health people, United Health.
C6 is proposed, D6, God, I can't remember, this is proposed allocation changes. This is this document that you should receive. If you, anything is in red is what is needed to be approved. Anything in black has already been approved for 17-18. This is, I'm sorry.
Well, since we just got this, if we have
Absolutely.
questions, we can call
You can call me.
Before we have a chance.
But I can go through this, go ahead.
One point of order is this says board approved 5/4/17 on the bottom, and it hasn't been approved yet. But usually they say pending board approval.
Okay, I'll have staff look at that.
I'm not trying to,
No, that's all right. It's all right, we can get it right. It's okay.
I think are you on D7, which is
Oh.
proposed district allocations?
Oh, okay.
D6 was the allocation
Oh,
changes.
sorry. I gotta find that one.
So is this is
Sorry.
the,
That's D7.
where's D6?
I can pull it up on.
Oh, here, is this it?
This may be it right here, sorry.
Yeah, this is
That's
it.
it.
This is it?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. I'm very good at it. I think so.
is that this? Yeah, we don't have that.
No, it's only on the backup, it's on the backup.
Back up.
It's, you have to
Oh,
click on the
back up.
backup.
Oh, it's
Click on the
just- you just have to go
Right.
These weren't there yesterday, right?
No, this is the supplement.
I thought I
No.
printed off everything.
This wasn't, yeah,
One
man,
in
this
your
is,
hands.
we're working rigorously to get this.
And this is for the next
This is
school
the
year.
challenge.
Yes, ma'am, so we can go through this. Principal on special assignment for FLICA, right now it's projected that we cut this position.
So who'll be?
We have internal staff that will be able to take the lead on that. We're also looking at moving cutting a .9 paraprofessional reading position out of federal funding and making that whole to a 1.0. Looking at adding the next two with adding the technology teachers at one at Argyle Elementary and the other one at OVE, Oak Leaf Village, is to make certain that we do not have overcrowded classes and resources. After looking at their schedules, it's deemed necessary that they need these in positions in order to have a class size, in order to meet class size amendments. If you look at the secondary education, the curriculum coaches for both for secondary, one for actually both of them, all three are 10-month positions. These are positions that we would like to add as one of the biggest things that we continue to hear is that we don't have this would be district staff to help implement the body of work, is that professionals said they didn't have access to content experts. And this allow us to really create some opportunity for us to go and work with new teachers, in addition with help with drive some of the common planning that we will work with Mrs. Paiva, and then work with individualized teachers on modeling and working with better understanding curriculum.
Could you not, didn't we talk about you using the model coaches?
We did.
So
In
what,
split.
you need these in addition?
You will need these in additional because you have the model coaches, I believe there's around 11 or 12. And that you have 26 elementary schools, and we'll be able to service those elementary schools, and these individuals will be content area focused to really help secondary schools.
Okay.
Whether it be one that's going to work with ELA, social studies, ELA, math, and science would be the three that we really need some individuals to work through.
Okay, so they'll be secondary coaches.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So these are gonna be posted when? Is this happening now?
Once approved,
Once approved by the board.
once approved, it'll be posted.
So you're gonna have a new position that you're posting in May as
Yeah.
a full-time teacher?
Yeah.
Starts in July.
It starts in
I'm
July.
sorry?
July. It's a new
It'll
budget.
start
It's
July.
a 17-18 budget.
So is these gonna be 11-month or 12-month positions?
10 months.
10 months,
So it really is for next year?
Correct.
Yes.
correct.
17,
Okay,
18.
but it, okay.
Yes, ma'am. It's
I
okay.
don't know, I don't have a copy of it in front of me, so I can't see. Thank you.
You're welcome. You have all my, she has all my
How
stuff.
subtle
I'm
you
gonna
are.
copy my book next time with you.
We need to make her.
I know, right?
Little subtle.
Our meeting is the day after. We should have. We yesterday we done some other stuff. The next one.
Next month he'll do much better meet with you.
Yes, right.
Much better.
The next one is a we have a secretary in Orange Park that will be administrative secretary is leaving. We're asking to have some real crossover, so it'll be $2,800 to train this individual at Orange Park so that we don't lose momentum.
Is that Orange Park Elementary?
It's Orange Park. I believe it's Orange Park High School.
Michigan.
So, oh, I saw it. Oh, sorry, Mitchell. Sorry, that's your planning.
Right, we
Sorry.
have one person that,
Operation.
Donna
Yeah,
Mitchell, is
operation.
retiring June 30th, and we need to bring someone in. We're one deep in everywhere in operations, and she's the only one who does all the fish surveying. So to bring that person in 30 days early to sit with her side by side is really critical for us to transition.
Who's
Sorry.
retiring, if I may?
Donna Mitchum,
Really?
June 30th.
And I tried to keep her, and I tried to incentivize, and
She's
she's ready to go. She's right. She was good. She's good. She's really
is.
solid. So we really
It's
need some.
you know, we have a lot of situations like that in operations where only one person has the institutional knowledge and there's no capacity there.
Not good.
Because over years, that our area has been the one that's, you know, really bore the burden of the cuts and funding. So therefore, being one deep is not gonna help us be reliable
It'll
and
take you
efficient.
time to,
It's gonna take some time to rebuild it back up, I got it, but this is really needed for us to have continuity of service.
Any questions? Oh, I'm sorry. All right. C7. D7. I don't know why it's D7. D7, my book's on this. So this is for staff allocation for next year. So this is the document that you should have. Anything in red is the positions that have not been approved. The positions that are in black have already been approved.
and just call you if we have questions.
You can, or
or
some things that I can to bring to your attention on the first page is that the administrative on assignment. I know we had 4 and you approved it. It's my understanding as a store we like to at least to have 1 moving forward for next year because you never know what could transpire and what could happen just to be allocated. Or we can strike that and I can bring it back with rationale if I ever needed to use such a position. I don't have any indicators of that using that now, but if it's been past practice to identify one of these positions to have already pre-allocated, I'm okay with it. If you want me to take it off now, we can take it off now.
I'm fine with
I'm fine.
Yes, ma'am.
I trust you.
Yes, ma'am.
You're not gonna go crazy.
No, I'm not. I promise.
Well, is there one in another department though? Because I think I remember there were 4 that we added to you and then wasn't there one in?
There's one in
I
human
deleted it.
resources that's been deleted.
I deleted it. I wanted to own it.
So district-wide, we just got that
We just
one
got the
sitting
one.
there.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, we told you.
And the 4 were only through the end of this year.
That's absolutely
Correct.
correct.
Right.
That's
okay.
correct. Yes, ma'am.
So we're down to 1 now.
Just 1.
Yes, ma'am. With no one
That
placing.
works.
Yes, ma'am.
And no one in mind. It's good to
Right.
sit there empty
That's it.
the whole year.
Okay, the next page, I'm sorry, I can walk you through this unless you do
it. I
not.
would prefer either.
Okay, if I walk you, I can walk you through this, you'll see that the next page is CNI. Nothing, really no changes. You'll see the number at the bottom has gone from the first wave from 3.0 to 12, and that's just because everything that's already been pre-approved has been moved from professional development to CNI. So you'll see a deletion later in this document. So I want you to know as you see an increase in numbers that you've already approved, it's just a wash of moving it from Katie Muller's division to Dr. Stahlman's division, so she can deploy coaches and individuals and specialists within schools. Same thing with Department of Secondary Education. This will be, these are the same that moved from professional development. The increase has moved to underneath the department of them as well. If you go down anything that's new, there is an allocation on here, so you can see, if approved, the job description for the Director of Elementary Education. If approved, you'll see that this will be added as well, because we'll be deleting the Supervisor of Reading and ELA, along with half the year salary of the Supervisor of Title I as well. And this will all be lumped into one position.
What's the difference in a director's salary and the supervisor too?
It's just dependent on,
I mean, the years I know, but.
it really relatively is maybe, I don't know, 10,000.
Maybe about $8,000 to $10,000.
Yeah, it's not a lot of money.
Okay, I just was curious.
Okay.
And you've moved Chief of Secondary from the Department of Secondary Education to the Department of K-12? Is that what I'm understanding?
That is correct. But it's under a curriculum instruction. To fall under that same umbrella. All right, so the next page, you'll see that very consistent measures with a cut in the Department of Reading and Language Arts. And we cut the language arts supervisor to create that other position we just spoke about.
What page is that on?
Sorry, the next page.
Third
Where
page.
it says adult and community education.
You
And-
deleted the secretary.
Yes, ma'am, and we also deleted the secretary.
Just a minute.
What is that supervisor, the first one? You got a 1 and then you got a 1 in red.
The one in red, that's
You
really,
delete that?
we will delete that. That's the supervisor of elementary education that will be deleted half the year because this employee doesn't retire until the mid-year. So that really could be a 0.4, or up to the entire date. We can prorate that. We just did it right here just to be safe, but we could really go down to whether it's a 0.6 or a 0.4.
So when that person retires, you're not
No, ma'am.
refilling that?
No, we'll use that position, the director position, to lead both those individuals' work.
Is that the 0.8 you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
Supervisor 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Now what about the one at the top?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
talking
that's the
about.
one that you were asking about, which
Yeah.
is different than what you answered.
It says
Supervisor,
supervisor, adult.
this is continued, we continue to have supervisor of adult and community education. That's nothing that's added.
So that 1 shouldn't be red, it should be
No, it
black.
No, it should be
because
red
we've not
because
approved it yet.
anything that's in red, you
Anything
have
in
to
red,
approve.
we have to approve.
Anything in black, you've already approved.
Oh, I see.
So red's just admin, so you can see it.
Okay. Got it.
Yes, ma'am. All right, next page. This is the professional development. This is where we see a lot of the specialists that have been deleted. I believe I'm on the same page. Okay, that have been deleted, have been moved from one silo to another. All right. Next page.
So these were moved to?
To CNI. Yes, ma'am. Where you saw the increase.
But there are no deletions at the instructional level at the county office. They have just been moved.
That's absolutely correct. Nothing, and additionally, it's an add once we add those 3, if approved, to Mr. Connor's shop. Now, I will tell you, there's an opportunity that we are continuing to look at some categorical funding with using some instructional reading funding to potentially bring on some additional coaches to help with Job Embedded, to have where every elementary school will have a coach. They'll have a coach in the sense that they'll be bi-weekly, be able to meet with, they'll be on site, one elementary for the entire week, and the next week they'll be on another site, and they can really teach and train and come back and help and transform the work. But we're just trying to figure out if we have those fundings available. And those will be teaching the positions that we'll talk with Ms. Paiva about. But we want to make sure that we really have that funding available before we commit to it. But that would, and I would say there's a lot of research to say how instructional coaches actually work. They do work because they're able to embed and transform the body of work in reference to understanding content. The problem is we've got to, if we're going to do coaches, and I think we've done coaches at one point in time in the school district.
We just eliminated those. I had that conversation yesterday.
Yep.
We eliminated all the reading coaches, and this is going to be categorical to bring back the reading.
We eliminated the reading coaches? When did
I
that
think
All
I think
elementary
years,
reading coaches
I think
were
2 or 3
eliminated.
years ago.
3 years, 2 years ago.
2 or 3 years ago. And I would tell you, if you do not use coaches right, they are, it's a waste of money. It's not, but if you use coaches right and you train them how to be
And they have
effective
to be
and leverage
trained.
it. Train, I mean
Because
like ongoing, you're correct.
These are teachers that have never been coaching positions. And it's a whole different way to view, to work. And we have not trained these coaches adequately.
So how many positions are you looking to bring back eventually? I know it's not on.
Yeah, so it could be as between 10 to 13. And if we do 13, that means that every school, elementary school will get a half a coach. And that means they'll get them for 26, I mean, they'll get them for half the year, which would be awesome. But Ms. Piva is very accurate in saying that A, you got to find the right person, and B, you got to have ongoing professional development that's intense on a monthly basis, and in order for it to work. But
so they fall under the professional development department?
they'll fall under CNI, curriculum instruction, because you want them to be so close to the curriculum where they understand how to leverage it, understand how to train, model, and coach, and help teachers, and model and work with teachers to be successful. The great thing is that by doing 13, you'll be able to find individuals who have the skill set to do it, and that creates 13 more additional positions for teachers to come into our county. And then you're not having to find 26 coaches to train them up, and you're not impacting 26 classrooms. So sometimes you get so big. In my other life, I had to hire 160 coaches. We honestly, truly didn't have 160 people qualified to do adult learning and training. It's a very, very good skill set. Just because you're a high-level teacher doesn't mean you're always the best one to coach people. So, but we will use high impact. We'll use the Breast and Bryce, whatever we can use. You know you don't like VAN, but VAN scores to really look and see who are the best people, and so they can go through a rigorous screening interview, which will include Ms. Piva as well, to be able to select people who can do this job.
And will they be housed at the school?
It will be blended. So they'll have a location at both their schools. They'll be assigned to 2 schools, so they'll be housed 1 week the next week. Yes, ma'am. So that's big vision pie in the sky that I want to do. We just got to make sure we have the funding.
Is it a push-in, pull-out method? What are you?
They will go in. They'll go in the classrooms and they'll plan with teachers on their planning time. They'll go and they'll plan. They'll go and model together. They can go in and pull. Yeah, it's all about teacher. Now, we can get to a part where after, let's say we get into January, we can do a blended model where they become interventionists, and then they start working with cohorts of kids to help schools and help teachers. That's where you have the power and leverage in those people.
Yeah.
So I know we have assistants that come in and do that now,
Yes.
but they're not called reading coaches. What are they?
We have some specialists at the district
Reading
level.
specialists as
Yes,
well?
ma'am. And they were only deployed, I think, as Ms. Condon spoke about, at model schools.
Okay.
So some of our schools didn't get access to them. That's why there's been angst about having access to people to help them enhance your craft. In theory, it's a great strategy. We just got to make sure we have money.
That is key.
It's Miss Bolas.
Sorry, Miss Bola. Sorry.
Thank you.
I knew it was this side of the table. Sorry. Sorry, reread it.
Hey, for a
Ms.
good
Bola,
idea,
Ms.
she
Condon.
deserves credit. If it's a bad one, you can blame me.
I think we're on 76. I believe
Well, go
mine
back
are
to
on.
75 a minute. Go to 75 a minute.
75?
Yeah.
I hope this is right. This is 75?
Okay.
I got
All
2.
right. It's written on the bottom right, page 75.
Okay?
Okay, I just wanted to know, most of this is you're changing to CNI, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so from the Department of Reading Language Arts, the bottom part of that page, up to the other part, are
Every one of those has been moved to a different,
so everybody on the bottom has a job somewhere?
other than the reading language arts supervisor. The answer to that, yes, ma'am.
Reading language arts.
That's the first one.
Okay.
Everybody else
Gotcha.
is good to go. They're just
Okay.
redeployed in the organization.
Okay.
So how many positions overall did you delete entirely and not just move?
I'll have to get that number to you.
He's still working.
That's the only one?
Go ahead, I'll get that to you.
Yeah.
I'm getting hand signals from over in the corner.
How many did you say? 1?
He'll get back to you.
He's working on it.
Oh, you have
I
a
do.
meeting tomorrow, right?
That's before she gets her
I have great
haircut.
follow-up.
Yeah.
All right, 76. Just pretty much we've added some, okay, so 76, this is the ads in 76 are 2. So I wanna, if you look at well actually 3, but if you go and you look, the first one is the director of maintenance. That stays the same, we've had that position. If you go to the next one, it's the maintenance supervisor for technical this is a position, Dr. Kemp, is this the position we want to bring on in order to build for school Y?
You're looking at the building automation specialist?
Supervisor.
Okay, sorry, the third one, we've already have all these.
The third one
Yes.
is the one that we have to
Okay.
approve.
Yes, that's correct.
It's the one at the top that we haven't had for a few years that
It's not been filled.
That's correct.
We've had it allocated, but
It's always been allocated, it just hasn't been filled
Which
on
one's
building.
been allocated?
the director.
Development
Sorry,
of facilities,
my fault, y'all.
planning and construction, so as we build elementary Y, I mean, Bryce is awesome. So like I said, she's we're one deep,
We know,
and,
right?
you know,
We've had a director of maintenance.
Not facilities.
No,
the
facilities
director of
planning and
facilities.
construction, and the job title
Oh,
that
you
was
just
attached.
changing names.
I can't remember the name of the
Sorry.
guy right now.
I'll go back to
Retired
it.
that it
If you
wasn't
go back to the
that, so-
second one, sorry, I was at the Department of Maintenance, but if you go back if you go to the second tier, where it says Department of Facilities Planning and Construction, the only ad here is for the Director of Facilities Planning and
Gotcha.
Construction. So this is where we have to have someone to drive the work to build the school,
That's-
and we gotta get done in 12 months.
That's
Now I'm
right.
with you,
It
because
was
you were
when
saying
John,
maintenance,
when
I'm
John
thinking.
Morrow retired and then they didn't.
It went dormant, that's correct. It went dormant because there wasn't a need to build, correct?
We didn't have
So-
any, we weren't building it.
Correct, so to be honest, this position, it will be, we do need it, and we will be very open if we get to a point where we don't need it in the future, and we'll come back and we'll have the same practice that we've had.
Now, your chief building
I believe so.
inspector is a deletion? Right.
Where's it at?
Chief building, under Department of Code Enforcement, the chief building inspector coordinator.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that was a deletion.
It's
That was a
deletion.
deletion.
An honest to goodness.
We used to have 2, we're down to 1.
Yep,
Was that through?
yes, and we're trying, attrition, we didn't,
You don't have it in front of you.
We're
We
going
still-
through.
we
So we're learning people still too, so.
Yeah.
it's bad.
One person doing budget.
We have one person doing bucket flow for the entire district.
49 facilities.
That's correct.
I can't.
I bet we have lots of
one
bugs.
person.
We also have, we
We might have
also,
to get Dr. Kent out there.
we also have.
I'm gonna have to
I have, I've done tater tots, I've served tater tots, I can spray bugs. But we do bring in kitchen services, federal kitchen services to fumigate that with Florida Pest Control. So, we have that as well.
All right, let's move on.
Okay, and then the ad for the Department of Maintenance is the automation system coordinator, that I'd like to talk to everyone before you leave today. Just to us if you can, I don't know if I can do that or.
No.
I talk to you individually.
Not together, you have to talk.
I can talk to you, yeah. No, ma'am.
It looks like
Mr.
you
Davis.
also added a warehouse manager.
Those were movements from my area to his.
Yeah.
That's
Mr. Davis. On the building automation specialist, I do want to make note that there is a vacancy that we are deleting to pay for the difference in building automation specialist. So though it is a new position for building automation specialist, we have a vacancy that we are going to utilize.
And that cost would be about what, eight
The
grand,
difference
10?
between the maintenance mechanic and the building automation specialist.
About 8 to 10 grand.
Yeah, so it minimizes the cost of that position.
You're not gonna have a mechanic?
As a vacant, well, we have several of those, so.
Okay.
Where are the custodians? Are
They
they
fall into
They're in the schools.
in the school?
Yes, ma'am.
Those were in the allocations to schools, and there was a
We-
question, at the last meeting about the one for cafeteria. And you had responded to
Yes,
that
I
with an
did.
email.
I did. I
Did you
did.
resend that to her?
I think
We
it was a
did.
misunderstanding.
Yeah, she didn't.
We did.
Yeah, did Miss Stacy?
Yes.
She didn't understand the funding sources and the flow, and what you could, if you're working a certain amount of your time in the cafeteria, you actually could use certain
Right,
pockets of money, and we were just having some crossover and really being accurate about where their time is actually spent.
And, but you had sent us
Yes,
an
twice.
email.
I sent us an email and Dr.
Twice.
And she was
Okay.
on the list, so.
Not to be disrespectful,
Thank
Twice.
Thank you.
everything is sent on
Yes,
time.
Yes, no, I was looking for it, and I couldn't find it in my emails.
Okay.
Okay. 77, we were on 78, 78.
77.
77.
Go back. I got 2 different forms up here, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rush this process. Same.
Routing dispatcher. One more routing dispatcher.
Really, another cut?
Hey, you added the routing dispatcher?
The ones in black we already approved.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right,
we've already
approved
approved
that, so
So,
just-
but it's an increase over last year.
Decrease.
2 to 3?
Yeah, but overall
Thank
down
you.
the bottom.
Okay, all right,
Yeah,
I'm with you.
one less.
That's a plus.
And then food and nutrition stays the same.
That's
78.
good to know.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, 78. 78, another decrease.
79,
What?
What's the one cut, Dr.
Director of purchasing
Oh,
is the cut.
couple more.
Warehouse director.
Increase.
The last 4 pages have been decreased.
Shonda Renee.
I know, she's calculating that money right now. Oh, come on, where?
I might get you one around.
Oh. We're back at one, we're back down 2 though, on 81.
Why are we going down the school psychologist?
We have, one school psychologist is retired, and then we have one vacant position. And thinking about it, that leaves us with 18 positions to service 41 schools. That's actually a great ratio. Even though we do have a big pocket of needs in our school district, I believe 18 is a lot to service. I may bring something back that's creative with that funding. I'm thinking about it now, and I will engage you prior to me bringing any additional plans.
So in that same arena, at one of the, Listen and Learns,
Yes, ma'am.
teacher
Okay.
made mention, it was actually the one in Keystone, a teacher made mention of this specific thing, and she said they will have students identified that need to be evaluated or tested, and they are waiting for school psychologists. And so the question that came up there was, how are their priorities
Yeah,
determined?
that's a good
And
question.
It came down to, because they're assigned to schools.
Yes, ma'am.
So maybe at this school, they have a lot of, so,
So we,
No, you're fine.
Get in the way.
but,
trying to write down my
so you remember the question, don't
Yes,
you?
ma'am, I do.
Okay, and so what I don't wanna now send the message is we're cutting, we
Yeah.
don't need as many school psychologists when the teacher specifically said we have a need.
Sure. It's not,
That's
and before Mike gets into it, it's not about a need for more staff. It's about how we defend their time and how we allocate sufficient staff to certain schools and what they do during that time frame. So Keystone may have an actual need where they're waiting, but we may have a school, I'm just giving you an example, at Orange Park Elementary where they're assigned a psychologist and they may not need services. And then we redeploy.
I do remember, and I appreciate us kind of bringing it up, and I think for the board, it might be helpful if I put together some data that shows you the number of referrals that are generated out of each building, so that we can see who's assigned where and what that caseload might look like. I can say that priority is basically around the 60-day rule, because it's state statute that kids have to be evaluated, and now, if I'm not mistaken, they are looking at evaluated and staffed, one way or the other, in 60 days, as opposed to just evaluated. So I think that there's a lot of systems being put in place right now in terms of bringing some standards to the curriculum, the tier 2, tier 3 kinds of supports that schools are going to get, where we'll see some benefits to not having so many kids referred. But I do think it would be helpful to you guys if I put together just a simple chart, number of cases, et cetera, then we can better evaluate where that need might be.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate that.
So just to point of clarification.
Okay.
The ones that are in red are the ones that we have to approve again, even though some of these we just filled in January?
Yes, ma'am. Every year allocations have to go to the board, and the board,
But didn't those people come with didn't we have a contract?
we
It's a
only,
half-year allocation.
you only approved them for the amount of months that they're here. So since they're on 1-year annual contracts, the board has to approve their allocations.
All right, next page.
I think we're good, that's it. You here, my papers are all messed up, so I'll give it to you.
AJ, you want?
If you have any questions, please feel free to call me. I can walk you through this and talk to you, and
So
overall, yes ma'am,
I was just gonna ask, information and technology is under climate and culture?
yes ma'am,
Okay.
yes ma'am. We're moving that position, cutting that position for assistant superintendent. And Mr. McCauley will drive that work for assessments and IT. And he's got some good staff, he's ready to go.
Yeah.
Just curious. All right, the next one. Yep, this is refinancing the certificate of participation series, 2005B. Working through Ford and Associates, who's our advisor. They did an analysis, and we can refi Plymouth Island High School, where I think it's around, it was $10 million. And we have a rate, it's at a rate of 4.25, and this will take us to a rate, I believe, at 2.40, which will be a savings of over $400,000 for the next, I believe, 4 to 8 years. 8 years, and around $400,000. And I think this is a perfect time for us to save some money, and this is a solid strategy.
It does not extend the term of the debt.
Correct.
Oh my God! Ringing the, I'll get you a bell. Ring the bell.
I think it's gonna be a tug of war between who
Over.
gets it.
Over 1 million, just sitting here.
That's how misinformation gets out there, Emily.
Oh, no, I knew
Mr. Davis has $1 million.
This is not general fund.
Oh!
Shush.
And
Is this a
again, the savings,
One.
the savings could go up because of the interest rate. It fluctuates on a daily basis, so upon approval, Ford and Associate, as our financial advisor, will coordinate the request for letters of intent to get opportunities to refinance this debt that we currently have.
No, I remember
We do this periodically.
a year, maybe 2 years ago, we had an issue with our credit rating.
Correct.
Has that affected us?
As a matter of fact, because of the most recent credit rating, that has improved our status. Even though it didn't go up, it stayed standard. Because of that, it has improved our opportunity to actually go out and get a better percentage on refinancing.
So we're back
Well,
again at A minus? Is
Yes,
A minus minus or A
it
minus?
stayed standard, I forgot the
So-
wording that they used, but it stayed standard. It did not go down, which the prior year we did. because
The
of
last
the
2 years you went down.
I believe if we continue to maintain our fund balance and and be strategic in our fiscal spending, I believe next year when we go through this exercise again with Fitch rating, that our ratings will go up. It will
Yeah,
increase.
I believe that it will go up.
No, not at all, not at all.
We will
Because we
protect
haven't
the fund
done any
balance, it will
debt
move up.
whatsoever.
No.
Not extending any debt.
Everyone in this room, my staff understands my goal with fund balance, and we will get there. All right.
Any other questions?
All right, what's, I'm sorry, I'm walking through this.
Mrs. Donovan?
One thing that I wanted to mention in supplements, our school psychologists have a different pay scale, a higher pay scale than teachers.
Yeah.
Our staffing specialists and our curriculum specialists and all our reading and everybody else are specialists, and they all get, and there's one group that half are specialists and half are not, and that is our social workers. And they're an integral part of this school system, and one of the, as Mr. Brodsky, who just left, but said to me yesterday was, well, the reason they're all specialists down at the county office is because they're giving up a lot by just not being compacted within a school, because they do give up a lot. They give up the, be best and brightest, they give up heads of department, they give up all those supplements, and that's why we give them supplements. I'm going to talk to Mr. Davis tomorrow about, I would really like to see all the social workers receive, just like everybody else at the county office, that specialists, where they're not just 4 of them are specialists, but they should all be specialists. They're the only people that's been left off a supplement forever. And I would ask, So when you, hopefully Mr. Davis will agree with me and put that in there, so when you see it and can digest before your board meeting, that's my train of thought on it. So my speech is done.
All right, let's move on.
Next one is public hearing for the advertised, the board policy 503, which is, we talked about last time I posted, removing the threshold from $750 to $1,000 from our standard recording property value inventories. All right, the next one is, this is where we're getting prepared for our educational impact conversations. For some reason, we put in, well, we identified 2 resolutions. My recommendation is that that the impact fees remain the same versus being increased. But if you look at the impact fee technical report, the report suggests that we increase our impact fees to $10,000 just because we haven't increased it since 2005. But again, my recommendation, and I've said this openly, is to remain the same.
I appreciate you putting this on the discussion agenda. I was a little concerned to see how the consent.
Yeah,
it
it
was just
shouldn't
in
have
wrong
been, it was
area.
just an error. Especially since it had, the original backup had 2 resolutions that we would have had to discuss, so
Yep.
that was just an oversight, it was moved down.
Any discussions? Dr. Kemp?
Did
fine.
we, did it come before the board to hire Ergonomics to do a survey? I was very surprised when I saw this because normally there would be some discussion, we're hiring Ergonomics, we're gonna do, it's been 3 years. And there was no conversation about this at all that I remember.
I actually
So
think
I'm
there
wondering,
was.
did
I'm
it
about
come
to say,
before us, did we approve it?
I did
How many
before.
months back, maybe?
It's not under my administration.
Ergonomics,
that.
and when I came on board, I was directed to go ahead and touch with these guys again, because by ordinance, we're required every 4 years to go ahead and commission
Right.
a survey.
It's been about that length of time.
Yes, it's
Right.
been at that time, it's actually due to go before the Board of County Commissioners in September. So we're coming to you now with this, so we did commission them at the beginning of the year to go ahead and do their survey.
What did that cost?
No, he did. Mr. Merrill brought
He
it.
did.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know.
And it was under your.
Was it?
Yes.
I think it was in.
Yeah, it was in
I was
January,
trying
I
to
believe.
remember when it came.
Well, then they snuck that one in, not to be disrespectful to me, because
We
I never,
discussed, we
It's
discussed
kind
it
of
at
a
board
routine
meeting.
thing.
I don't
was
think I
just
had a
couldn't remember
conversation
it
about
coming.
It is routine.
It's around 6 or
We do this
7,000.
routinely every
Yeah, yeah.
2
No,
years.
it's a
They go in
routine
and
thing.
and I think they, I don't know the cost
And then you do
factor.
the dance, you know,
I
the
am
builders
curious,
don't want you to raise it,
we
the
just
others
found
don't
out
want
sometimes.
you to.
The 2 resolutions, where did they come from?
Well, I drafted both, and the resolution, one was to remain, to accept the survey, or to accept the study as is, per their recommendation. And the other one was to go the low end, let's just go ahead and keep it status quo. We could either, go anywhere in between, so I wanted to give you guys 2 options. Do we want to go ahead and accept the study with the increase, or do we want to remain status quo and keep the impact fees the same as they are, which is about 65% of their recommendation.
Let me ask you something, I don't mean to be rude, but what is your name?
My name is Jim Fossa.
Fossa?
Yes.
And what do you do?
I am the coordinator of planning and intergovernmental relations.
He's actually,
You're the new
he's
owner
awesome.
of Joe Williams.
I'm the one who
Who else?
goes-
I'm sitting here the whole time
Who
thinking,
is that?
does he work for us?
I want to tell you,
Jim Fossa,
I had Ainsworth hire people before I got here.
FOSSA.
Awesome. Good hire. Did a good job.
Thank you, boss, I appreciate it.
I can't take credit for it. I wish I
So
could.
both-
I could not
both
figure out who
resolutions
you
were
are.
provided, so as you
I wish I
discussed, if
could.
you decided to adopt the technical report recommendation, that resolution was readily available. If you decided to keep the status quo, that resolution was readily available. We have received guidance from the superintendent that it was not his intent or interest to raise impact fees at this time due to the hardship on property owners. But I think the board does need to recognize that we are currently at 65% of the technical report's recommendation where we are right now. And it's going to put pressure on us as a board, the board and the organization, to try to find new ways to create a revenue for the district. Because if you look at the recommendation, as we look at decreased state funding from construction, maintenance, facilities, things like that, impact fees can only be used for new growth. And when you take into account the new growth that's gonna take place, this decision impacts us until 2021, the next cycle that it comes. So for us to keep it stagnant or the status quo as it is right now and continue at 65%, we're looking at, over the next 4 years, some growth that we're going to have to deal with. So tough decisions will have to be made with strategic funding across the board, as well as creating new alternative ways to create revenue for the system.
But also, because there is so much growth going on, we will be collecting more in impact fees over the next 4,
Should.
5, 10 years.
And keep in mind,
Just
impact
look at the
fees can
corners of
only be
Granite
used
Field.
for new growth.
So like, for example, it's only allowing, this revenue is kind of only allowing us to aid building new schools or add wings where we're taking portables away.
Right.
So the revenues that we need to address aesthetics, to address infrastructure, is ways that we need to think collectively about how we can, what we can do something in order to have a long-term game plan to address our facilities, which a number of them need some assistance.
But part of this can also go
And-
towards paying down our,
Yes.
the bond,
Okay.
the COPs, and
You
that's
know,
what it's been used for in the last.
That's correct.
We're never gonna have as much money as we would like to have, that's for sure. But one thing we have to consider is most of us have been around a long time in Clay County, and you've got to have your timing right when you go to look at something to bring in additional revenue to the district, whether it be tax or
Sure.
impact fees or whatever. And I think I read in the paper where the county commissioners have put in a 5-cent gas tax that's coming in. And then I saw something on Facebook last night, it looks like they're talking about, I think they had done away with their transportation impact fee, and now that's kind of coming back up, and I don't know what all they're talking about, because I haven't seen their meeting, but I'm just getting bits and pieces, and I'm thinking
And then
they're
the
looking,
sales tax
they're
was
looking at,
extended.
you know, different things to bring in money, because they're probably strapped like we.
But
But right now, I think the timing would be extremely poor on our behalf
Well,
to be broaching this right this minute.
Yeah, I would say this, I understand, I agree, but we have to take a stand or we're gonna miss it.
Yep.
So I in the next, I say, in the team in the next 2 months, we'll probably present you with a plan that we'd like to kind of get out in front of, and, because if we don't find additional revenues, and I'll be honest with you, I can work to be the face of it, but and I will go everywhere I have to go to make it a priority, to show the needs in this county, but we could potentially generate a bunch of money a year. But I agree with you, time is everything, Ms. Stutter. You're
Well,
correct.
it's timing and the perception and also the plan, and like, if you present it to us and get some buy-in on something, and then we've got to get the citizens, I mean, there's a way to do things. We've tried in the past, and due to a few flukes by some former employees, we didn't have good luck
Yes,
with the
ma'am.
ballot box, but, there's ways to do things.
Yes, ma'am.
Do it right.
And engage the Chamber of Commerce.
Yep.
Economic development.
I know we voted, or I guess we voted to build the school debt free. But is that going to be the best, I mean, if we're looking at, we're not gonna raise impact fees, and I hear concern about being able to afford future projects, is that the smartest move?
I would say yes, because you're already $60 million in debt, and right now, even though your rating didn't decline, it didn't move up either. So the more we can create stability and use our financials internally, the more that we have time to rebuild our reserve and also rebuild our borrowing power. Because if we do have additional bills, you're going to have to borrow money then.
But also, when we
down the road
petitioned
for
the
like a
state,
Tynes area.
you had to tell the state that you were self-funding it.
That's correct.
We weren't taking a bond.
I'm so proud of that 60 billion, it used to be over 100 million, y'all,
Oh, I have
we're
a
going
hard
in the right direction, we're getting there eventually.
My question on this is the sentence that says, reducing portable population and replacing them with permanent classroom wings, adding capacity in compliance with state mandate.
I wasn't aware there was a state mandate to get rid of portables.
There is. In 2003, they came out with a state mandate that said that anything that's 20 years or older, you got to repurpose.
But you can buy
repurpose.
new ones, and I guess my point
you have
is.
money.
You can, but you don't want
Can
to.
we finish this discussion? It's a workshop. Can I finish what I was saying?
Because you don't have to go further than Floating Island Elementary, Orange Park Junior High, several other schools I've been at lately to see where portables used to be.
Sure.
And if there were permanent classroom wings built where those are, we would be sitting empty at Fleming Island Elementary, and we needed to build across, you know.
Sure.
So I guess it's concerning to me that it seems like a decision has been made that this board is moving in a certain direction, and I don't recall us having conversation about it. And so that's what was my concern.
Yeah,
Somewhere
so
in there it talked about 8 wings, and I'm not seeing it right this minute, but 8 wings at like 1.4 million
That's
each.
about what it costs to
Did
a
it
permanent
say?
space, correct?
Right, and so to your point, you know, the thing, even though portables, they're ugly, you know, they're.
I think there's some
they-
positives
They
to
are
it.
relocatables though, and they serve that purpose, but.
They're
what
they're
we-
quiet, I mean, you know.
what you can do, what they are is a Band-Aid. They're not best, they're a Band-Aid. So it's a Band-Aid through growth and insufficient planning. So what we, I mean, we can relook at the language, and we're not saying that we can suggest the funding could be used to add on additional, if approved, to do, you know, to.
Everything's dependent upon having funding available.
Can we just put that in there, the funding available and me not saying that it's so stern about what we're going to do? That way it doesn't put anybody in a lock and step with it, and that's under strategic plan.
You put an awful lot of information on this than we're used to seeing.
I wanna put as much so you can understand what we're
Because
trying
you're
to
getting
do.
in the weeds.
I know.
Just a
Kinda
fun
has-
I
fact.
have a question on this, you know, not increasing the impact fees. Do we or do we not have over 700 portables over 20 years old?
That's just correct.
So where are we gonna where are we gonna replace them? If you're not gonna increase impact fees, where are you gonna get this money to do 700 portables? And I think Dr. Kemp and I have had this discussion, because we have concerns at some of our schools because there's no bathrooms. And
Yeah.
we've been trying to work through this, but we can't continually work through no money. You know, you're getting cuts over here, you know, I'm hearing this, and, you know, the county commissioner's putting 5 cents. And we have a study that we're not gonna pay a bit of attention to what their recommendation is. You know, that's very disconcerting to this little person sitting in the corner here, thinking, where are we going if we constantly say we're not going to raise anything? Where are we going, what is the plan for these 700 portables that are already over 20 years old?
I mean,
Jim,
That's against the statute.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Let me just ask a couple of questions. This is a substantial decision, obviously, and it is impactful, no pun intended, when it comes to capital outlay dollars and an ever decreasing state funding for it. Just a couple of primers, and this is something that I want to do my best as a school board attorney to answer questions that the board itself and individual members have. Isn't it the role of the board simply to make a recommendation to the board of county commissioners?
We would make a recommendation, yes.
Right, okay.
They
And
make
we're,
the decision because they're the police power.
now, it's teed up to the county, not every year, correct?
Every 4.
It's every 4 years.
Yes.
So the delta between, you know, staying status quo and moving, I haven't read this report, I've just been thumbing through it right now. I'm assuming is a substantial delta. There's a big difference. And can you give us a spitball, how much per year?
Because we haven't increased it over the time, we've lost about $12 million. And if we don't increase it, it's gonna probably cost us over the next 20 years about $14 million. Now, it's really, to say the truth, I mean, we really, if you look at the study, you'll see they're recommending that with growth, that we're gonna need 10 new schools over in 20 years. And when you figure, but when you figure the impact fee, they look at the cost per student station, at what's generated, and they apply to it the index, the CPI or whatever, the index, and that's where they go from there. And then they divide it by how many kids, you know, we have, and then they subtract some credits out of it. That's where they arrive at that figure.
Right.
And we're not gonna be able to keep up with it at that point, but we're going the wrong way. I mean, we're not even keeping up with what we have.
And I just want to be as brief as, because this is going to deserve further discussion on another day. We have you mentioned September, I believe that's a
That's when
deadline.
it goes before, correct.
Well, that-
September 10th, it needs to go before the BCAC.
Well, the BCC needs to make a decision, right? I think that
Well,
that's true.
And BCC will do what, if we pass that we want to increase the impact fee, we send it to BCC, they're more or less.
They're gonna defer.
But they're the only legal entity that
That's
can
right.
impose it.
That's
So,
right. I just
mean,
wanted to
they're not
make
gonna
sure.
go against what the school board
You know,
said.
I just wanted to kind of make sure that we understand the boundaries and expectations and what it is, what the role of the board in this impactful decision. So
You're
I'll
coming to our
look
office
forward.
tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah, I'll look forward to meeting
Nice
with
to-
you and
nice to-
learn more on that.
Okay.
Because I also believe that you have the opportunity not only to say increase, stay status quo, I
Or
believe you
get
could
rid of
also
altogether.
recommend a decrease.
Which they
So,
could.
and that is within the discretion of the board. So,
I mean, I will take direction from the board in reference to your recommendation. If you want to see the other way, just let me know.
And your recommendation at this point is to leave them as they are?
I mean, it'd be nice to increase, but I would recommend we leave it. My staff wants to increase it.
I still have the question, what are you gonna do with 700 portables that you're violating
You
the
repurpose
statute?
them, you repurpose them, so they don't have to move. You can repurpose them and they just come off the fish.
That's correct.
What do you mean repurpose?
Repurpose them, so they come off, so they're no longer part of a,
Student station.
yeah, student station. I mean, they could be a student station, they're just no longer part of your fish. So when you go to calculate utilization, they're no longer part of it, but you can still use that classroom for whatever you need to use it for.
As long as the portable passes the annual
Inspection.
safety inspection every year, it can still be
We're
utilized.
compliant.
It may or may not count as student stations on the Florida inventory schoolhouses. Correct?
What's the downside of doing something like that? Taking 700 portables and you're repurposing them, they're still functioning out there, but
Utilization.
what's
Well,
the
happens is
downside?
it drives your utilization way up.
It drives, yeah,
Put you over
yeah.
100%.
Could put you over 100% of schools, or which we don't want to
That
protect. and
doesn't
don't
sound
want
like a solution.
No,
It's
it's
how,
not.
it's how Keystone High School went from 80% utilized to 85%.
to. Yeah. for
I mean,
us.
truly is.
Yes.
And now I have parents calling saying, we've always been able to get in. There's no open enrollment in
Yeah.
Keystone now.
You know, I wish
There's no
that
open enrollment
that
in
was
Clay
addressed
County.
in 2003 when they came out.
In Clay
We're just
County,
more
if you
years
did, if
behind.
you removed
Trying to do
700
what state statute
portables,
requires.
No, we have a list of schools that are.
no, if you remove, that changes
Eleven
the whole
schools, 15
utilization, and there will be no open schools in Clay County.
That's
I just think that I'm with them. I'm with these
Seeing
people.
dollar signs.
I'm with these people.
They're all me.
The expectations over a four and a half year period from the time that we're required to do this. So when you take a look at utilization rates, when you take a look at how we're utilizing our dollars, we have to find ways to create new revenue, whether that's impact or whether that's pursuing options with the BCC regarding increasing the percentage of the existing tax that they placed. Because if I'm correct, and I don't want to misspeak, especially in this environment,
110.
but I can tell you that when the school system was considering doing this with the county a while back, the county convinced the school system not to pursue the penny tax or the half-cent sales tax and the piggyback with the county. Well, we received listen to this, 0.881 of 1%. Of what the county is receiving, and it really didn't do us any favors by doing that. And we have to, so options are to increase.
You gotta act like an organization.
Yes, sir, options are to be a reliable and efficient organization to increase additional revenue or go to them for more. If we can't have our own.
All right, but if there's, is there any different direction that anyone wants to provide me on this issue?
We'll call you.
Okay, thank you.
So is that it?
That's it.
All right, any board member comments?
I have a couple of questions, and these are not on this agenda. I wanted an update on Catapult. What is
Okay.
our enrollment?
So right now, Catapult, and it's a good question, we apply for MSID. with Catapult, and they won't let us open and approve the MSID until next year.
What is MSID?
Sorry, it's a school number. So, because we wanted to make certain that the Catapult was under our umbrella, we didn't want anyone, shape or form, people thinking that we were going to create a sub-loop to get students who are not graduate from within our organization, outside of our organization. So we wanted to do it right. Talked to Rhonda many times from DOE. They're willing to approve it, but they want to approve it in 17-18. So right now we are continuing to work with many seniors. We had 27 seniors that were in the category we were going to qualify. We're working with them right now to problem solve internally, and that we have a number of kids that parents are ready to go for 17-18.
When we were in Tallahassee, the three of us were in Tallahassee for FSBA, there was some strong discouragement of the use of these kinds of mechanisms.
Yeah.
There was some indication that these kind of organizations, I'm gonna be careful.
No, you can say.
That these kind of organizations are under investigation, that school districts that use these kinds of organizations are under scrutiny by the commissioner. And further than that, we had a conversation that I will not share which county it was for protection of their privacy.
Sure.
But they just had made mention, and I think I had it privately, it wasn't a situation where we broke sunshine, but I think I privately had the conversation where someone from a different board who uses an organization as of this has had contact from some attorneys in Tallahassee that look an awful lot to their school board attorney like Discovery. So I really would like for Mr. D'Agata to be involved in this.
Yes.
And I guess my follow-up question to that is, in they're not approving this to 17-18, where does that put us with our out of the contract?
You have every option. I can tell you, I spoke to the commissioner. Catapult is not an entity that's being reviewed for priorities when it comes to graduation. They're not one. You had school counties that were releasing, and Catapult can't be because Catapult has to be under your umbrella with MSID school number. We had their district, the commissioner is investigating now that we're sending kids out and finding loopholes to get them out of their graduation cohorts, and that's the problems that they've signaled the alarms to superintendents. Individuals in organizations and partnerships such as Catapult or whomever they may use, whether it's accelerated academies, there's one's accelerated academies that many use in the state of Florida as well. They are under the umbrella of a school system which we own their graduation, so we're not trying to in any way, shape, or form do anything to impact our graduation rates, trying to save lives. And I've had extensive conversation with DOE about it, and this is not one of their concerns. But it is their concern. They launched an investigation throughout the state with people, or they are now in the last 2 months, where you have school systems finding loopholes. And this is not one because we own the graduation rates for kids.
I've heard some, and I can't substantiate it, so it literally is just rumors.
Yeah.
About concerns about their financials.
Yeah.
And I won't.
I haven't heard. I haven't heard their national model. I can tell you that they're in a lot of spots throughout the nation, and if there was any financial concerns, I wouldn't have brought them here. Now, if I learn of them I'll go unpack it in the next 30 days. I'll bring it back to you or 15 days, and I see if there's any financial concerns with them. Then we can eliminate the contract now.
So we have 15 days left to eliminate.
Oh no! You can do it anytime.
60 day at any time.
Yeah, it's
I thought it was a 90-day.
It was a 90-day.
90 day anytime. Anytime 90 days. Any time. But
So 90 day, but it's a 90-day notice.
Correct. But we haven't started, and trust me, we haven't initiated the process. And if you feel strong that that this is not a route you want to go, then let us know. But I can tell you that you're going to have over close to 150 kids that need some type of additional services that we cannot provide.
I guess I'm not understanding how it is that we can't provide those services.
Because we don't have staff. They haven't. We're trying to get traditional educational right. We're trying to get them to understand how to be on grade level, and you have 2 kids who are 2 or more years behind, it's time on task. You talk about increasing small group of teachers. If and not, I'm sorry, Ms. Bowl, you're a teacher. If you had kids that 2 or more years behind, how much time do you have without learning? You can't spend. I mean, spending that time is difficult to do.
But I thought don't we have like a credit recovery?
Yeah, credit recovery. That's for kids who need 1 or 2 credits, not a junior who has 6 credits and needs 14 more credits to go graduate. That's 2 different
But we see
continuums.
that at Bannerman. And
You don't have that cohort of Bannerman. You have kids that are you only have
those students
That's people think that that's a recovery place. That's not. It's about mental health and It's about mental health and kids who are behind. They just have They have additional avenues to get kids who are a couple credits behind up on pace, not majorly separation. These are major separated kids.
So, following up to your question, the program that we currently have in the high school, there's
Okay, it's
what's
recovery.
the computer program?
It's
that we currently
Compass.
have?
Oh,
It's
yes,
Compass.
that's one.
Thank,
Yeah,
I
it's
couldn't
Compass.
remember the name either.
It's only designed
So Compass is just
for-
designed for, so if, let's say, just using
Yeah.
a student that I have, if I want to, is the Compass Lab manned during the summer?
Yes.
So they have
We have summer school.
So
Do
can,
they have to
I
pay?
mean, as a summer school?
They have to
Okay.
pay.
And they can't
So-
take, certain things are offered at the same time. So you
Correct.
can't-
You
Like you can't do
at
like
the end of the
US
day,
history and.
You can do one credit.
you can do 1 credit. I mean,
Over the summer?
yeah, you
That's
can do
it?
1 credit.
Yeah,
I mean,
and you could enroll in,
and
say,
you get
for
a
a
whole
virtual
credit
for an
for
additional
everything.
credit.
Then how does Catapult do it?
Yeah, because I mean, you got to think of a teacher. If a teacher's sitting
I
there,
mean, I don't
and
get how they do this.
we are not in the business to tell a teacher where a kid has sat for 180 school days and they can go to a program and sit for 15, 20 days and remediate
Yes.
that course. That is grossly disrespectful to the profession.
Yes.
We're not in that job. We're in the job to educate people, to let them be on grade level and beyond. Like I said, traditional teaching we got to get better at. Everything else we should be proven models. And this is not only helping kids internally, the 127 I talked about originally, but kids who are, I said 1,500 kids didn't graduate in the last 3 years, 2,000 kids didn't graduate in the last 5 years. They can go activate those kids and then get a true high school diploma, not a certificate of completion through this through initiative. Guys, I have no stake. If it's not Catapult, I'm telling this board it has to be somebody.
I guess, and the other part of my concern with it is I don't know if you all received the email from a citizen who sent us the graduation rates
Yeah.
for Catapult in
Yes,
Duval County.
yes.
It's a
That was gravely concerning. What are we paying for if it's an 8% graduation rate?
Yeah, so I mean, you gotta look at the number of kids they service and offer. I mean, I don't remember those numbers. And that citizen also, I've asked to meet multiple times. They're just a competitor that wants to meet with me, I know that,
A
so.
competitor to Catapult?
Yes, absolutely.
The other side of that is, if 8% graduate,
Mhm.
that's 8% we wouldn't have had before. And that was said, I believe, by you, Ms. Karakis, at the board meeting. And at first I was sitting back thinking, yeah, but, you know, I mean,
That could be.
but we're losing these kids.
Well, but I mean, if it's 8%, I just wonder if there was a way we could have done that in the system. Because if I'm understanding Catapult, they're going in, sitting in a computer lab with a monitor and while they work on their stuff.
Right.
And I just don't see, to me, if a child is that grotesquely behind in school, there are a lot more issues than just
Absolutely.
academia that's going on.
Absolutely.
And I
Yeah.
worry that we're not meeting those needs for that kid if we're
That
putting
is
them in
something
front
that
of a
Catapult
computer.
provides.
They offer that. They offer, I said, I mean, they offer all those mental health services.
I had a
inside.
conversation with one of our social workers, and the only thing she requested is that we make it accessible to people who are not gonna, they're not gonna travel an hour to do this kind of thing, if you're in that situation. And so she said, especially in the area that we live in, she said there is a definite.
Oh, I agree with
There's a
that.
definite need in in the Keystone area.
I agree with you.
We're losing kids because they have no hope, and
I agree.
accessibility is an issue. And for them to be able to sit there and do it on a computer without the loss of dignity of being 17 years old in 9th grade, and that's your only option in our schools today. And even I mean, they're not going to get on a bus and go to Bannerman, even if we offer it at Bannerman. And I hear both sides of it. It's just I try to think about the dignity of a student that we're trying to get there. And I'm on board with that. My concerns were the legal aspects. I don't want our district in trouble.
Yeah, no, it's
around
it's
that.
actually, that was a message 2 months ago, you're right. And this is not part of it, but
Mr.
I agree.
Davis, are we withdrawing these kids from our school system to go to Catapult?
When,
On the
no,
computer, on Are they being withdrawn?
I can tell you
or
this, if
focused?
any kid, actually, we don't offer Catapult in Clay County, so, but if a parent decides they wanna withdraw their kid and go to Catapult now, which is in surrounding counties, that's on them, that's not
Correct.
our.
Correct, I'm saying, so they are being withdrawn from our school system to go to Catapult.
That's a parent's
Because
recommendation.
it is not a
Decision,
part of our
sorry.
school system. So the code to withdraw them is what?
It should be a W-2, right, W-2?
Or is it W3?
No,
You're saying right now?
W-2 is out of our
Out of
system.
district. It'd be
So when
out
it
of
opens up, let's
Should be
say it
W2.
opens in August.
But
what
is
would
it
they
not,
do?
Mr. Connor, are these guidance counselors not being told to withdraw them as W03s, which puts them in out of state? And that takes them out of the cohort of graduation rate?
Nobody's been directed, to my knowledge, to do
So
anything.
they are still going to count against us in graduation rate if they go to Catapult?
Currently, we don't have a catapult set up, so if they go to another catapult out of district, they would be withdrawn out of district.
That's O2.
It'd be an
Should-
O2.
O2, they're gone.
But
Here,
wait,
I understand what
so
you're,
we're
I
gonna
understand
fall.
what you're getting at, but there's a bill in front of the legislature that is probably gonna pass, that involves the whole Schools of Hope thing.
Yeah.
That is gonna make, it makes it illegal to
But what I'm
withdraw
trying to
anybody to not
understand-
count as your graduation rate.
That's
What I'm
correct.
trying to understand
It's gonna
is
do that anyway.
Catapult,
That's right.
these kids are grossly behind, you're absolutely right, there's more to this. And that's why we probably, I'm a big one for standalone, tech school. That I think we need another avenue, we've had this,
I'm
we're
not
gonna
afraid of
have.
it.
I'm a big one
afraid of it.
because we're not talking about kids who are missing a credit. We're talking about kids who are juniors and seniors who had 3 credits. They're juniors and seniors.
That's correct.
And so that's the problem, what are we gonna do for them? My problem is, I don't know how Catapult is helping us.
Because we
I don't-
haven't used them.
They're still in the cohort they're still counted as dropping out.
They help us through mental health services, they help us through, they also, well, we still have
Career
that, but they,
planning.
career planning. They continue to make sure kids are applying through scholarship. They have a better ratio to helping kids get an application for scholarships. They have a better threshold of getting kids who are, and we don't do this, who are getting kids who have the 3 credits to be getting the 10 credits quicker than we can. I mean, that's what they're built to do. That's
I'm
their
with Ms.
wheelhouse.
Skillhouse because I wanna know how they do it.
Yeah. I mean, I would.
I wanna know how they do it. I can't walk, as a guidance counselor, I don't know how we make up 10
I would
credits in a
say,
year.
I would say this, we're not ready to do this now. I'd say this openly. I mean, guys, we're trying to figure out what curriculum we can use to be standalone throughout our schools to get that right first.
Yeah.
So there has to be a focus on, let's do this right, and then eventually, if we believe that we can start adding additional tiers, I'm wide open to it. I want to think differently in this county, and if we can do that, that's fine. And, I mean, because we could buy our own teachers down the road, once we get little things right, then we can expand to that down the road, so.
I shared your concerns about the legality portion of it.
Sure.
You hear rumors that are concerning,
Yeah.
but again, I don't have anything to substantiate it, so
Yeah.
I don't wanna jump on a bandwagon when
Yeah,
there's
there's
nothing
always pros and
substantial.
cons to anything, any initiative, any curriculum, there's always noise to everything we're gonna do.
But it does give me, for whatever reason, I was of the understanding that we had 90 days to cancel this contract,
do.
and then we're stuck with it for a year. But that's not the case.
I think it's not, I put in there 90 days.
And
Continuous
there was a
90
note
days?
in my notes as well to bring it up now, because it would have been 90 days
That's
at the
what
end
I
of the
thought
school
too.
year.
Yeah,
Or the
I'll go back and look, but I believe it's 90 days,
at any time.
at any time.
I specifically asked that on the board floor because we were going through the
Yep.
GPS contract. So
90
specifically said
days.
at any time. And
90 days.
Jessica, could you look that up for us? Could you look at that contract and see?
I
what
believe
the-
we wrote it, it's been months, but I believe we wrote it that way. We'll get it to you, I guess.
First official text.
I guess.
Anything else?
I've got,
I have one more though.
I've got a couple of quick things.
When I feel like if I'm remembering correctly, when we hired Southern Strategies to be our lobbyist, was that this time of year, are we due to renew that contract?
I'm not sure when the renewal process will be.
The contract.
Actually, I think it's monthly.
It's through May.
No, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead and correct me if I'm wrong.
We did take a contract to the board for Southern Strategy. I believe it was about 60,000 for the time frame
Right.
till
5,000
the end
a
of the year. It's actually through the end of the legislative session.
Okay, so we're
So,
would
once
be
the
May.
legislative session ends, that contract will, end. And I believe for future, we did not renew, we did not budget for it.
So can we put that on the agenda to discuss, because legislative session ends next week?
Next
At the
week,
end of
all right.
next week, and it is highly likely they are not gonna come to a budget agreement. They're talking special session, and the last thing we would need is to not have representation through.
They're not gonna stay on if they go through.
So I would say, to be open, my recommendation, if we could bring it, would
If they
be
go into special session.
We would have to
monthly.
extend the
I don't know. I don't know. Can we review it?
I think we need to, I mean, I'm not for discontinuing that contract, I think we need a lobbyist in
Um,
They walked us around like that.
Well, that's the discussion that we like, that
Sure,
I'd like to have.
we can have,
I was just,
I don't know
can
if
we,
you wanna have this
should we
now
put it
or
on the?
not. I mean,
I'm
I have my
asking-
own feelings about it.
No, we'll discuss it on the board floor.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's put it on the
Why
agenda.
don't we wait till they get through, see what happens?
I agree.
That would
If we
wait
don't do
until
it
then
now.
June.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think they ought to, I mean,
Why don't you, reach
create-
out or
Wait
look at the
and see.
contract and see,
What happens?
does it go through, if the session changes and has to go into special session, are they still on the month-to-month with us?
Can we put it on the May
Sure.
agenda for discussion? And, but, well, the problem is then we can't take action if we need to take action.
I know, I think we should just put it on the agenda. I'm speaking for one board member, but I don't think it would be wise to not have a lobbyist in Tallahassee.
Especially not when we're talking about reduced capital outlay funding and things like that.
I feel like it's a necessity, so I would like to see it on the agenda.
So we can put on the agenda, Karen is saying we can put on the agenda to discuss and take action if necessary.
that's a young,
Can we put it on the agenda when our policy says all our agenda items have to be submitted 14 days in advance? It's not an emergency item.
But it kind of is if they're going to special.
No, there's actually a legal term for emergency items. To add
Well,
something to the
anytime,
agenda,
anytime a
it's
board member has
health,
had,
wealth, what is it?
anytime a board member has wanted to add something to the agenda at this time frame, that has not been enforced. Mrs. Bola asked for the GPS to be added to
But
last
that was
month's.
after that was after the agenda had been put out to the public.
Right.
This is different because the agenda has not been put out to the public yet, is that my understanding? Has it been?
This is, I would say it's at the board's discretion.
And it says, shall review the agenda including all backup material. The school board member may, with the approval of the school board, introduce
Well-
an emergency item. That's called emergency item.
I think that, there is that policy of the 14-day thing. What I also just heard is that that is routinely set aside.
Not routinely.
So
I would
if
say
from
probably
time to
only for
time
you,
it's set
it's not been
aside.
done before.
Twice that I know of. There was a time when you had asked for something.
I've never put something on less than the 14 days, but I'm sure you'll go back and look, so by all means do.
I have no personal issue with you, Ms. Karakis. I am just asking that we discuss this at a board meeting, which is my right as a board member to put things on the agenda.
But we have a policy to follow too. So if the
Well-
board, how does the board feel about it?
We can, I'm okay if we discuss it at the June meeting, but I would like us to discuss it at some meeting.
Okay, let's put it on the June agenda, that way it follows policy. And in the meantime, why don't you reach out to Southern Strategies and see what their contract says about an extended legislative session.
And if we are going to lose our representation in Tallahassee if we don't renew by May, then I think it would warrant adding it to the agenda. If Mr. Davis is gonna reach out to Southern Strategies to ask them about that, then can we make the stipulation that if we stand to lose them lobbying for us during this last part of the session, could we add it to the May agenda?
No, let's get real. If they go into special session, you read the paper every day, they're to the point now where they're doing their dog and pony show dance, doing their financial dance. By the time they get into special session, whether we pay Southern Strategies $5,000 for those extra few weeks or not, it's not gonna make a hill of beans bit of difference into what's gonna come into Clay County schools.
I beg to differ. We got our $1 million in the last day of session last year.
What was the contract again? It takes us to the end of the session, is that right?
The
Dr.
legislative
Woodcock? Yeah.
session, I will have to go back to check on the
So if it's the end of
language.
the session, then it would, if there's an extended session, then we would be covered.
Well, that's the way I would interpret it, that they'll stay with us till the session's over.
Right.
I mean, I think
Extended
we're
session
we're
versus
paying
special
per
session.
month.
For the,
If I'm not mistaken, we're paying per month, is that
Correct.
correct?
correct.
So we would be paying, we've already paid for the month, but we will be paying for the month of May. So in an extended session, I'm assuming that it would happen in May, and that we
They
could
will-
put this on the
They
June
can,
agenda.
they can adjourn and then they can call a special session.
Right, and if we're
Which is
paid
not
for
the same.
May, then we
Mr.
can go
Davis,
back
what's your
in June
opinion?
and put it on the June agenda.
Well, we'll wait
So,
and see how the
I
contract
mean,
goes.
I'm gonna answer this question very honest. I get updates weekly that I could get through reading the paper. So I'm gonna tell everybody at this table that. That's what I get. Do I know, I don't know this partnership other than me coming in. They try to be proactive with what our priorities are. But I get, Mike McCauley knows because I've looked him in on every one, and I'm not trying to call him Mike, of every one of the emails I receive, and I get better information provided to me by FADS on a weekly basis.
So this is not a discussion I wanted to have at the workshop.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just asked a
I don't
question.
think that anyone is
It was
prepared
asked.
to have this kind of discussion here. I think that our discussion was, Ms. Billhausen was asking about putting it on the agenda.
Sure. And not,
Concerned
Miss,
about the contract.
sure, and Ms. Conlon, the question was asked to me, so I was answering, so I wasn't prepared, that's why I asked you. You want me to have a discussion here or there, but when you ask me a question, I'm gonna openly tell you where I'm at, so that's my feeling on it. So you decide whether or
add it to
not
the
you own the
agenda.
money, if you wanna decide you wanna
majority
have
of the board
this as a
wants to.
board, you let me know. I'm gonna be honest and tell you what I think I've received and what I think we can do moving forward, and either way that we decide, I'll go to work.
And here's one other question. Do we have anything that we have given Southern Strategies that we have said, we want you to lobby as much as you can for this amount of money? Or for this particular cause? Or for
Just,
this, aside from our generic three things?
No.
So we're not dealing with $1 million on the last day, is what I'm just throwing out.
No,
It's a-
we
No, all I
say,
said was we got that.
you're gonna get,
I understand.
we're lobbying for what we're probably already gonna get anyways.
Mhm.
Let me just tell you that,
Mhm.
so.
I just have a feeling, I mean, y'all talk so highly of being impressed with them when y'all went to Tallahassee.
Alice is awesome.
The ones that went.
No doubt.
I guess it was you.
She's a
and Natalie,
newcomer. She's
how-
lights out.
What a good job that the person did. But I just cannot believe with our past relationship with Southern Strategies, and I don't have the contract in front of me, but if it says it's through the end of the legislative session, I cannot believe that these people who are being paid $5,000 a month, if they go into
Sure.
a session and they need to work 2 or 3 more weeks or
Yeah.
whatever, I just cannot even believe that they would walk away and say, no, we're not gonna do that anymore, because they know we're gonna pay them the $5,000 while they're in session. They'll still be doing their session. I don't know why we're spending 20 minutes beating this to death.
Reach out
I'll
to
do the
them,
legwork.
and if they are not going to represent us during the special session, add it to the agenda so that we can discuss it at the board.
If they are, it's fine to discuss it when that contract is up.
And if they are, we'll just put it on the June to discuss it then. Is
Yes.
everybody okay with that?
Yep, I'll look to the board for direction, so after I get information. It'll be my, actually, I'll get this done quicker than my follow-up, so you will get the information.
Could you quickly fill us in on the self-contained model for pre-K at
Pre-K.
Shadowlawn that we got the email about?
Yeah, Macaulay, you wanna give an update?
So, Dr. Stallman, my backup left.
This is about the ESE having inclusion classes and non-inclusion classes, those kind of things.
So the parents,
Yeah.
so I had another phone call from a different parent than the one that emailed all of us. And the parents seem to be indicating that they've had inclusion and now they're going to a self-contained model. And,
So my understanding is we're gonna have 3 pre-K classrooms at Shadowlawn. 2 will be a blended, primarily ESE, but with normal developing peers in them. And the other one, I believe, is gonna be exclusively BPK, so non-ESE we don't have enough
Yeah.
kids to.
So it'll be 2 inclusion and then
Okay.
1.
Because this mother had some very specific information that she had gotten from, and I understand Dr. Stallman left, but she had very specific information that she was given from our district level ESE department about that her child had been in this situation and now was not, that in order to stay in an inclusion class, her child had to change schools. That her child could not stay at Shaw.
If you can get that information of who,
Yeah, if I knew who was
Okay.
sharing it. then
yeah,
I
or
could
send it to me
address
and I can contact him.
I was driving, so
I know, so that's fine. I know you'll get calls all the
If it's the
time.
same woman,
Yeah, I
she didn't
respond.
give us the phone number.
Yeah.
Or she didn't give us her
Is that
phone
the email I
number.
responded to?
You had an email and there was another
Yes,
person
ma'am.
that was involved.
Yeah, what
And
we
I think one of the key problems was that, and she's very satisfied, because she got a call from the principal saying that it would now be inclusion or blended classroom. And I
wasn't
said, great, and she went through the whole
that
thing.
direction in the first place.
One of the comments though made during all of that, which was to me objectionable as well, was the fact that we are only legally obligated to do certain things. And it was like, oh, okay, yes, we're legally obligated, I get that. However, the whole purpose of the inclusion class was for the betterment of her ESE child
Yeah.
to experience
Sure.
a regular education classroom, for want of better terminology, at a pre-K level, so that as this child progressed through the elementary schools, they would be obviously blended into that same inclusion sort of environment in the future, with some of the friends they made. But that I remember writing down legally obligated,
Yes,
because it was like,
Yeah,
so that's all you're going to do?
Sorry, I don't
And
know,
thought, whoa,
and,
okay.
and I don't know who they're having a
We
conversation
can have
with.
that conversation with
Staff.
leadership, for sure.
Mhm.
I mean,
So my only other issue is, I was wondering if you could point us to the policy for the random search directive that you gave last week. Because
Yeah,
when I
so-
looked at our policy, it seems to almost directly contradict it.
Yeah, so since we found a gun, 2 shoot list, found a knife, all this happened last week. So I asked and staff to increase the random searches, which is best practice. So if we're not gonna go out there and increase the random searches, whether we do it for kids get off buses, in common areas, whether we do it in classrooms, I believe that that we create an environment where we're not continuing to create the best work and safe work environment for both students and for staff members. It came to my attention that a couple of years ago, after I sent it out, that individual principals were directed not to do those. I have no idea why. So now I've had a conference call the day after I sent it out there is a need for professional development, there's a need to make certain we have equipment, and there's a need for make sure they understand what random is, that we should be doing random searches in this organization.
I think
But
that
my
Mr.
concern
Superintendent,
is
Ms. Condon's
school board
point was.
policy.
Yeah, but I can set that. If I ask my staff to go do random searches,
No,
You need board approval.
we have the school board policy, we are the policy making body.
I'll look at the policy, but these are just best practices. This is not
That's
about.
fine, but you've gotta do it the right way.
Yeah,
I'm
I'll go
not
back
saying
and
we
look and
disagree
we'll
with
have a
that.
conversation.
Right, and to Ms.
I don't
Condon's
believe
point, legislation
that's not-
speaks
I
to
believe
That's-
this is
that's
another
suspicious.
question for our new.
I think that's very clear of where the weeds of where my role is and your role is, but I will go back and look
But
at
the
it. to make
policy
sure to
making
find it.
body is us.
Absolutely.
And
I
to
don't
Ms.
disagree.
Condon's point, we need to do an overhaul of our
Sure,
policies.
I agree.
And we need to go through and
I'll look at that
actually
as well.
update and review, because we've not done them.
We were supposed
We
to
were
have,
supposed
but
to, and
it
it was
never
pulled
happened.
and reversed, so we need to put that back on the agenda, because this is a perfect
And-
example where,
I mean,
You know-
what is it, the search that administrative search
So
document.
ultimately, for the board's reference, to follow up Ms. Condon's point, the Attorney General's office put out a document in
I'll send that to
2012
you.
that was focused on school-based searches and best practices around that. And they do describe a process called administrative search, which must be completely randomized and documented accordingly, et cetera.
and that probably needs to be on our policy.
I will share with the board that the principals did a really nice job of offering feedback on the phone call, and it was awesome because it allowed us to stop and reflect on what we want to do moving forward. So we are going to make it sort of a collective decision
Sure.
on how we do it. Most importantly, the principals were pointing out that messaging It's all in messaging.
I agree.
How we want
I
to
agree.
share with
And
And we specifically say in our student our student code of conduct, we specifically reference the Fourth Amendment. We specifically reference the protection of students' privacies unless we have a reasonable suspicion.
And then that obviously goes into the other, so that was my concern,
Sure.
is that to be consistent with school board policy and to get that parent input, you know, again, the messaging, when you talk about that, we learned it with the GPS, if we don't have buy-in
Sure.
from the community,
yeah, it's.
it will go much.
And I'll